Chapter 657. Xiao Xingyun was a sly old fox. How could he not see that Han Zhanmeng was suspicious of the Xiao family? He had been thinking about how to solve this problem for the past few days, but he had not come up with a good idea. Now that he was forced by Han Zhanmeng, he had a sudden inspiration and came up with such a reason. It had to be said that this reason was quite reliable. After all, there was a precedent. Han Zhanmeng was stunned and frowned. After a long time he said, "If that's the case, Great Elder, please pay more attention to the news. If there are any abnormalities, please report to me immediately." With that, he walked out with a heavy heart. In his heart, he was thinking, "Do both of my daughters have to walk this path?" Looking up at the misty snow mountain Sword Peak, Han Zhanmeng's heart was in turmoil. His eldest daughter, Yen Yao, was still in seclusion up there. It was a punishment, but it was also her own choice. It had been nearly 10 years now. Han Zhanmeng let out a long sigh, and his eyes flashed with pain. Suddenly, he flew towards the Sword Peak. However, he didn't notice that Xiao Xingyun's sinister eyes had quietly flashed with a trace of a relieved smile. "I've finally managed to deal with it for the time being." Sword Peak. This was the key to the oath that the Dongfang family was forced to make. The Sword Peak collapsed. All the Xian beasts came out of Tianfa. This was the highest peak of the snow mountain. The whole mountain was shaped like a huge sword, piercing straight into the clouds. The lower part of the mountain was round, and the upper part gradually shrank. On both sides of the mountain, there were 2 mountain ridges protruding, like the 2 handguards of the sword. Above it was a tall and straight mountain, piercing into the depths of the sky, straight into the clouds. This towering mountain at the top of the snow mountain was majestic and steep, and covered a radius of dozens of miles. When it came to collapsing the Sword Peak and the snow mountain, this was an almost impossible task. How could such a majestic mountain collapse just like that? Han Zhanmeng could not help but think of that battle and that oath. He could not help but feel sad for the Dongfang family from the bottom of his heart. Such an outstanding assassin family was sealed in this remote and desolate place for all eternity by a vow. Furthermore, he had no hope of making a comeback. How could he not be sad? According to altitude sickness, the higher one went, the more difficult it would be to breathe. This was because the higher the altitude, the thinner the air would be. This was especially true in this place. If an ordinary person came here, they would be in danger of suffocating at any time. But for these experts who were familiar with the climate of the plateau, it was not a problem at all. On the contrary, the higher one was, the denser the spiritual qi of heaven and earth would be. This was greatly beneficial to the cultivation of Xian technique. Snowflakes fluttered in the air. This was the case at the top of the snow-capped peak. It snowed all year round. This also caused some strange phenomena. For example, some of the mountains were hundreds of feet tall, but they were not actually that tall. Most of them were formed by the accumulation of ice and snow over the years. If there was high temperature, it was very likely that the ice and snow would turn into a gurgling stream in a few days. However, in such a snowy world, how could there be high temperature? Han Yen Yao's seclusion cave was already very close to the top of the mountain. The temperature there was even colder, almost double the temperature at the bottom of the snow-capped peak. But if one were to practice here, it would be more efficient. For generations, there were many outstanding disciples of the Silver City who had secluded themselves here. But the longest period of seclusion was no more than 3 years. Most of them could only last for 3 to 5 months. This was because humans were social animals. If they were to live alone, 1 or 2 days might not be a big deal. But if they were to be separated from the group for a long period of time, no one would be able to stand it. That loneliness and boredom could drive people crazy. Especially in the last few hundred years, this place had gradually become a place where they were punished to face the wall. But Han Yen Yao had already been in seclusion here for over 10 years. Even Han Zhanmeng, as her father, could not imagine how his daughter had endured these 10 years. The madam and the great elder had tried countless times to get her to come down, but she had always refused. She refused to give a reason. Han Zhanming sighed softly. Looking at the cold, dark cave, he finally stepped in. Inside the cave, not only was it not warmer than outside the cave, it seemed to be even colder. As far as the eyes could see, it was an illusion of ice and snow. There were ice pillars and walls that were as smooth as jade everywhere. There were no mirrors, no combs, no tassel-embroidered tent, and no soft bedding. As far as the eyes could see, there was nothing that could be called enjoyment. Even the basic daily necessities were hard to find. Was this really a girl's residence? Inside the cave, on the only ice-jade platform in the center, a woman in white with black hair trailing over her shoulders sat cross-legged. Her eyes were slightly closed, and her hands were quietly placed in front of her abdomen, as if she was silently practicing. There was no sadness or joy on her tranquil face, only tranquility. It was as if her whole body had melted into the ice cave, almost like she was not a living person. Han Zhanming felt an inexplicable pain in his heart. Was this still the daughter who hugged his leg and begged him to tell her stories? Was this still the same carefree daughter who ran around with a face full of smiles? How could she become like this now? Yao. Han Zhanming's heart was filled with mixed feelings, and he finally called out softly. On the jade platform, Han Yen Yao suddenly heard the voice and opened her eyes slightly. Unexpectedly, her father appeared in front of her. There was a rare trace of warmth in her calm eyes, but there was still no change in her expression. "Father, it's you." Living alone on the icy peak all year round and suffering in her heart caused her to be unable to smile. She didn't even speak much. At this moment, she had become like the snow peak that had existed for thousands of years. She refused to melt. It was rare to melt. Perhaps in this world, except for that person, there was no one else who could make her smile. Facing his eldest daughter, Han Zhanming felt speechless for a moment. The alienation and unfamiliarity that his daughter exuded made his heart ache for a moment, and he was speechless. After a long time, Han Yen Yao finally took the initiative to ask, "Father, why are you here today?" Several thoughts went through Han Zhanming's mind, but he suppressed them and changed the topic. "Yao, there is one thing that I still don't understand. It has been a whole 10 years, and until today, my doubts have not been solved. Today, I came up to have a good talk with you." Han Yen Yao raised her eyebrows slightly in surprise. "Please enlighten me, father. When you went down the mountain, you saw the third son of the Jun family, Jun Wui, and fell in love at first sight. Afterwards, I went down the mountain to see Jun Wui and to see him. In all fairness, he is indeed a good man, and can be regarded as an outstanding talent. However, in my opinion, no matter in which aspect, he is not as good as Xiao Han. I still don't understand why you made such a decision. Could it be that Jun Wui is truly extraordinary? Could it be that I, your father, was mistaken?" Han Zhanming said that this question had been bothering him for a whole 10 years, and it was not wrong. But the biggest reason he brought it up today was because of the Great Elder's speculation. If the Great Elder's speculation was true, would both his daughters have the same fate? Hearing the words Jun Wui, Han Yen Yao's eyes flashed, and a hint of softness appeared in them. Even the cold expression on her face seemed to melt a little, but it quickly disappeared. She said lightly, "Father, is this why you don't understand? I thought you already knew about it." "What do you mean?" Han Zhanming frowned. In the past, Jun Wui was not as handsome as Xiao Han, nor was he as considerate as Xiao Han, who deliberately flattered his daughter. In terms of Xian cultivation, he was far behind Xiao Han. In terms of family background, one was a secular official, while the other was from a super family. The difference was like heaven and earth, and there was no room for comparison. I believe that Jun Wui is nothing in comparison to Xiao Han in most people's eyes. He doesn't have any redeeming qualities, Han Yen Yao said indifferently. If you understand this, then why did you? Han Zhanmeng did not expect to hear such words from his daughter. He thought that she would praise Jun Wui greatly, and that he would surpass Xiao Han in every aspect. Unexpectedly, what came out of his daughter's mouth was very different from what he had imagined. Yes, in terms of external conditions, Jun Wui is indeed not as good as Xiao Han. This is also why I said that in the eyes of most people, Xiao Han is better than Jun Wui. But unintentionally, he made me feel that this is a person, and a man at that. Han Yen Yao's cold eyes shone with a blazing flame. At that time, his Xian cultivation was not high, but he often helped people, and did not seek fame or fortune. He was upright, and had an awe-inspiring character. Although he was not good-looking, his heart was as broad as the sea, and he had the spirit of a man. His family may be ordinary in our eyes, but in Tianxiang, it could be considered one of the best. But he did not have the slightest bit of extravagance, nor did he use his power to bully others. He shed his blood for his country and ideals, and at a young age, he was already a blood general, serving the country and its people, and had an illustrious reputation. All of these were his strength. Based on what his father knew, could Xiao Han compare to him? If Xiao Han was not born in the Xiao family, with his aptitude and breadth of mind, what level could he have reached? Han Yen Yao's face showed a trace of gentle reminiscence. Let's put aside these strengths and weaknesses for now. What I remember most is the first time we met in the magnificent jewel hall. His eyes were very clear and free. As she spoke, she slowly raised her head and said, "Father, although your daughter's appearance is not rare, I am confident that it is enough to cause the downfall of a city. In this world, I do not belittle myself, but the number of women who can stand shoulder to shoulder with me can be counted with one's fingers. I believe you will not deny this, right?" Han Zhanmeng nodded silently. Han Yen Yao was an outstanding beauty, and could be said to be the most beautiful woman in the Silver Blizzard City. How could he not know this? Even to this day, the title of the most beautiful woman in the city had never changed hands. He had long been used to seeing some of his disciples suddenly stare at his daughter, so how could he not know his daughter's beauty? But when Jun Wui saw me, although his eyes were stunned for a moment, he returned to normal in a very short time. Han Yen Yao's face showed a trace of a shy smile. Then when he left, he was even more resolute, without any worries. I remember that I had a medicinal herb in my hands that he urgently needed, and he practically snatched it, shoved a roll of silver notes into my hands, and left in a hurry. At that time, I was so proud and arrogant, so I followed him. At that time, his Xian cultivation was not even at the gold Xian level, so he naturally did not notice me. I originally wanted to play a trick on him, but I unexpectedly found out that the reason he left in such a hurry was to treat the poison of an injured deputy general, and the medicinal herb was the one he bought from me. The deputy general was plotted against and poisoned deeply. Although the medicine was effective, he was already deeply poisoned, and the medicine could no longer take effect. After taking the medicine, he was barely able to speak a few words before the poison attacked his heart and he died. At that time, Jun Wui was lying on his body, crying, and sucking on the injured part of his body in vain, trying to save him, but in the end, he was powerless. Father, that was the first time I saw a man cry, and I suddenly understood what it meant to be a brother. Han Yen Yao's face was full of sorrow. I quietly left, and when I returned, I often saw the image of him holding the corpse and crying bitterly. For the sake of a brother who was almost hopeless and who was only his subordinate, he gave up the opportunity to be alone with me, and hurriedly returned without the slightest bit of reluctance. After a few days, we met again, and he was sending his elder brother off to battle, so, after meeting him again and again, I felt that although Jun Wui was not a peerless genius, nor was he a descendant of a super-aristocratic family, he was a real man. In front of me, he never concealed himself. He was very honest and very frank. Han Yenyao quietly said, "What other people think, what they say, I don't care, but in my eyes, Xiao Han is a very fake person." The way Xiao Han looked at me was very intoxicated, but also full of pride. It was as if he was looking at something that belonged to him, as if I was already in his palm, but the way Jun Wui looked at me was only love and respect. So, I like Jun Wui and hate Xiao Han. Han Zhanmeng sighed deeply. Perhaps there is another reason. Xiao Han is the future son-in-law you all chose, and you never asked for my permission. As for Jun Wui, he is the man I like, and I feel that I can rely on him for life. Han Yen Yao's voice became more and more calm, but to Han Zhanmeng, it sounded like a daughter shouting loudly. Maybe it was because of the ancestral teachings, or because of the friendship between the two families at that time, the marriage was decided. But after we grew up, did you all feel that Xiao Han is very narrow-minded? Do you know how many disciples have had their hands and feet broken by him just because they said a few words to me? Some of them were even his uncles and brothers. Do you know that Xiao Han is an extremely dissolute person? When he was training in Jianghu, he started to flirt with women the moment he stepped into the secular world. He is even more unscrupulous in his actions. Whenever he does not comply with his wishes, he will use forceful means, and once the other party is stronger, he will use the name Han Qing, and sure enough, it is always successful. With such a character, can you just close your eyes and let your daughter marry him? Maybe you can pretend that you don't know, but I can't. Of course I understand that you want to marry him, but have you ever thought about whether I would be happy if I really married Xiao Han? Xiao Han's behavior has never been a secret, do you really not know? But father, you still did not change your mind. At that time, did you know, father, I was actually in despair. I was completely in despair. Han Yen Yao's eyes slowly filled with tears. Han Zhanmeng listened in a daze, and suddenly his heart was full of regret. Even if he did not know all this, he had at least heard about it. But he had never taken it to heart. He had only thought that after marriage, things would naturally get better. Under the care of the elders of the two families, how bad could things be? Only now did he know that he had made a huge mistake. Han Yenyao said angrily, "Until I met Jun Wui. Father, I believe that any girl would choose Jun Wui over Xiao Han for the sake of her lifelong happiness, right? He is just a beast in human skin." After the trip to Tianxiang, the Xiao family became even more domineering. From the beginning to the end, Jun Wui did not know my identity, nor did he have the slightest intention of clinging to the Silver Blizzard City. But the Xiao family directly sent people to warn them. Was that a warning? That was a naked humiliation. They even forced me to return to the mountain. After that, they used all kinds of methods to attack the Jun family. What crime did Jun Wui commit? The god of war of a generation, an unparalleled hero, had died with injustice because of them. Jun Wumeng was a hero, an upright man, but because of us, he died tragically in Tianguanlin. What's more, Jun Wuhui's two sons also died because of this, and they were only teenagers. Jun Wui had also been beaten into a cripple. The reason why he hadn't died was probably because of Xiao Han's words. He wanted to make him beg for death, but he couldn't. If it was not for me, I would have died on the spot, and the Xiao family even planned to annihilate the Jun family. Didn't you know all this? But did you say anything? Daddy, your daughter's life has been ruined, just like that. Han Yen Yao's eyes were empty as she looked at her father. It was because of me that Jun Wuhui and Jun Wumeng died. Jun Mou and Jun Mo Cho also died when they were young. All of this is because of me. Father, if you were Jun Wui, would you want such a disaster? No matter how much you like this woman, your family all died because of her. Would you still accept her? Father, put yourself in her shoes. I have a conscience. People often say what people do, the heavens watch, karma, karma, karma. But is there real justice? In this world where the fist is the strongest, Justice is not in the hearts of the people. Right and wrong are determined by strength. Even if there is someone who has the strength to uphold justice, but due to various reasons, he is not willing to stand up for this tragedy. How many supremes and superior supremes there are in this world, as long as they stand up and say something, they can avoid this tragedy. But they did not. What can they do? What can they do? Han Zhanming frowned in pain, looking at his daughter's sorrowful story, but he could not say a word. He felt as if something was stuck in his throat. How could he not know that when his daughter said, "Someone who has the strength to uphold justice, but due to various reasons, he is not willing to stand up for it," she was talking about him? Facing his daughter who had suffered for 10 years, what could he say? Han Yenyao stood up slowly, her eyes filled with sadness as she looked at the snowflakes floating in the cave, and said slowly, "This cave is very cold, so cold that even I can't stand it. But I don't want to go down, I would rather stay here until I die. I don't want to go down and see those familiar faces, because it makes me sick. It makes me hate, it makes me want to kill them all. They are not worthy of being human." Han Yenyao said quietly, "On the first day I came here, I carved the names of Big Brother Jun Wu Hui and Second Brother Jun Wu Meng on the ice wall and set up their divine positions. Later, I found out that my 2 nephews also died because of this. I stayed here and worshipped them. There is no incense or paper money here, only me, a sinful woman, kowtowing 3 times a day. Other than that, I can do nothing else. I can only face them every night and sincerely say sorry to them, say sorry. I know it is meaningless, but I will still do it, accompany them like this, because I have let them down, and I will never be able to atone for it in this life. Their deaths are my responsibility." Han Yenyao's face was frighteningly calm. "And I am Jun Wu Yi's woman. I am a member of the Jun family. Father, we don't have an official marriage. We don't even have the incense and candles. We don't even have the words of a matchmaker. But I've already decided that I'm a member of the Jun family. If I were to die here one day, I hope that Father can fulfill my wish and bring my remains back to the Jun family for a proper burial. This may be the last request of a daughter to a father in this life." Han Zhanming slowly stood up and sighed to the sky. He had always thought that he would see his long-lost daughter again this time. He must have had a lot to say, but now he found himself speechless. He couldn't say anything at all. That's right, the heavens are watching. Those who have the power to uphold justice, for various reasons, are not willing to stand up. But what? What? He himself, daughter, you don't have to be so pessimistic. Maybe Jun Wu Yi will come to the Silver Blizzard City one day to pick you up when he is successful in his cultivation. As long as Jun Wu Yi has such strength, I will definitely help you too." Han Zhanming took a deep breath and made a promise. "Even if I have to fall out with the Shao family, I will make sure that your wish is fulfilled this time. Father, if you had said this 10 years ago, perhaps all the tragedies could have been avoided. But now it is too late. The tragedy has been cast, and the dead cannot be brought back to life. Even if he doesn't, I believe that he will come to the Silver Blizzard City, but not to pick me up. It is for revenge. The blood feud between the Jun family and the Silver Blizzard City is irreconcilable. I know his temper very well. The blood feud between the 2 brothers of the Jun family is a sore point for him, and it is also a sore point for me. This kind of sore point cannot be eliminated. Father, that's a brother made of flesh and blood. Our Han family and the Shao family are only brothers of different surnames, and we have been protecting each other for thousands of years. Not to mention that we are brothers of the same mother." Han Yenyao smiled sadly and said, "Father, when Jun Wu Yi climbs the snowy mountain, my life will end on the day he arrives. I will personally go to the underworld to apologize to Big Brother Jun, Second Brother Jun, and my 2 nephews. No, I will not allow it." Han Zhanming's body trembled with fear and he shouted sternly, You cannot be so reckless. If you do this, how will your mother and I face it? Father and mother's shock at my passing? I am sure they will be very sad. However, Jun Woo-yi had to face the torment of having his 2 brothers and nephews die for him every single day and every single night of the past few years. How will he face it? Father, Xiao Han said that he would make Jun Woo-yi suffer a fate worse than death, and he has done it. I believe that Jun Woo-yi will suffer a fate worse than death for the past 10 years. Much worse. Han Yen Yao laughed coldly. Since he has committed a sin, he will have to pay the price. Apart from using human lives to pay this price, there was nothing else that could be used to pay this price. I only hope that the Han family of the Silver Blizzard City won't stand on the side of the Xiao family when that day comes. That would only add to our mistakes. Han Zhanmeng looked up to the sky and sighed, and he said in a low voice, Yao, you don't have to wait too long. The Jun family has already released the news that they will attack the Silver City on the 2nd of February this year. This news is already known to the whole world. On the 2nd of February, they will destroy the Silver City with one sword. This is the declaration of war from the Jun family. Ah! Han Yen Yao suddenly jumped up and looked at her father with wild joy. Her voice trembled as she said, Daddy, is this real? You are not kidding me, are you? Of course it's true. Do you think I'm joking when I say that foreign enemies are attacking the Silver City? Han Zhanmeng nodded speechlessly. Looking at his daughter's happy face, he suddenly felt powerless. His own daughter was so happy that the enemy was going to attack them. The Jun family had said that they were going to attack the whole Silver City, and not just the Xiao family. Then, how strong is the Jun family now? If they don't have full confidence, won't they be in danger? Han Yen Yao asked worriedly. The strength of the Jun family? They are stronger than the Silver City. Han Zhanmeng smiled bitterly. You can rest assured. That's great. Don't worry, Father, Wu-yi is not someone who kills indiscriminately. Attacking the Silver City is just to take revenge on the Xiao family. He will never implicate the innocent. I trust him on this. Han Yin Yao's eyes were full of deep hatred. When the time comes, I want everyone in the Xiao family, starting from Xiao Han, to die without a whole corpse. Not even the chickens and dogs will be spared. I hope so, but the Xiao family. Han Zhanmeng looked troubled, and it was difficult for him to say it out loud. The Xiao family? What happened to them? The Xiao family has been very strange lately. Han Zhanmeng sighed. At the top of the sword peak, facing only his daughter, he finally voiced out his suspicions. Something is very strange? What do you mean? Han Yen Yao frowned and looked at her father. It is very strange. In early autumn, the third elder and the others signed a contract with the 7 swords of the Silver City and went down the mountain with your sister. They still haven't come back. Han Zhanmeng sighed. The information that was sent to me was very strange. I had already felt that something was wrong. But none of the people I sent to gather information came back. And during this time, the Xiao family has been paying more attention to the intelligence system of the Silver City. Almost none of the information was sent to me. So I feel very depressed, and the sense of crisis is very strong. It seemed like something bad was about to happen. This premonition is very strong. The Xiao family, for so many years, you have spoiled the Xiao family. This is nothing new. Han Yen Yao said calmly. Internal strife is destined to be unavoidable. No matter how deep their friendship was in the past, it couldn't resist the arrogance of being spoiled generation after generation, which led to the wild ambition of wolves. This is not something to be alarmed about. What I am most worried about now is that Meng went out with them. Will she? Han Yen Yao's eyes were full of anxiety. The great elder speculated that Meng is very likely to be like you. Han Zhanmeng shook his head, but I feel that there is something fishy about it. Xiao Han and Xiao Fengwu are also in the team, but they didn't come back. Even if they are like me, there is nothing strange about it. Because the whole Shao family is just a bunch of trash. No wonder I didn't see that bastard Shao Han during this time. So they went out. Han Yin Yao paused and said seriously, Father, you have to be careful of the Shao family's tricks. You can't be careless. Also, in this war, we can't let the Shao family be dragged into it. Since he said that he is going to take revenge, the Shao family's fate can be predicted. If the Han family gets involved, the consequences will be unimaginable. Han Zhanmeng sighed and avoided the question. Have you decided to stay here? The Jun family's people will come in 20 days at most. Don't you want to go down? Go down? Han Yin Yao smiled sadly, but did not say another word. Her eyes stared blankly at the snowstorm outside the cave. Then, she quietly turned around and walked to an ice wall, standing there for a long time. Han Zhanmeng walked closer and saw a few lines of words engraved on the ice wall. Late Brother Jun Hui's Memorial Tablet. Late Brother Jun Hui Wu Meng's Memorial Tablet. Nephew Mo Yu and Nephew Mo Chao's Memorial Tablets. For memorial tablets, the inscription was, Unfilial sister-in-law Han Yin Yao stands in tears. Han Zhanmeng suddenly understood his daughter, and seemed to have touched the misery in his daughter's heart. These 4 names were like 4 mountains that had heavily pressed down on his daughter's body. They carried an ancient and desolate feeling, and had separated his daughter and Jun Wu Yi from each other. Even if Blizzard Silver City was destroyed and the Shao family was destroyed, this mountain in her heart could not be removed. Han Yin Yao's dream of a lifetime had been shattered the moment the Shao family had dealt with Jun Wu Hui. There was no more hope for her to realize her dream. She was still supporting herself to live, just waiting for revenge. Just waiting for the right time to atone for her sins. At that time, she would use her own life to atone for her sins, to express her guilt. Was this the retribution of those who had the power to uphold justice, but for various reasons, refused to stand up for her? Han Zhanmeng got up sadly and floated down the sword peak, full of worries behind him, amidst the clouds and mist, a graceful white-clothed figure, her black hair fluttering in the wind and snow. She was currently gazing into the distance. On the face of this peerless heavenly fragrance, clear and cold tears slowly slid down. When they fell to the ground, they had already frozen into beads of ice. She stood there quietly, as if she had been standing at the peak of the Sword Peak since ancient times. Chapter 658. Han Zhanmeng went straight through the main hall of the Silver Blizzard City, and then quietly left through a secret passage, arriving at a secret place halfway up the mountain. This place was still within the secret passage, and only this secret passage could lead to this place. Although this place was located in the middle of the mountain, the concentration of heaven and earth spiritual chi here was far purer than any other place on the snow mountain. Even the peak of the Sword Peak where Han Yin Yao was located was far inferior. The stone room was very spacious, with a circumference of about 100 feet. It was like an underground hall. There were many stalactites hanging in the air, forming a variety of strange shapes and sizes. On the surrounding stone walls, there were countless glittering and translucent spots of light, shining brightly. These were all kinds of unknown crystals that were naturally inlaid on the stone walls. At the very center of the stone chamber, there was another peculiar shape. It was roughly hexagonal, and on each corner, there was a huge white crystal that naturally protruded from the ground. It happened to form 6 white petals, and the center was naturally arranged to form a lotus seat. The gentle light emitted by the mystical crystals from all directions and even the ceiling of the cave coincidentally gathered in the middle. As the light gathered in the middle, it formed a light pillar that was almost tangible. It went straight to the top of the cave, and after being refracted by the top of the cave, it once again connected with the crystals in all directions, forming an indescribable subtle cycle. The power of nature was indeed magical. And within this huge light beam, which was as thick as a bucket, was a dense fog. If an expert with profound Xian cultivation were to carefully examine this fog, it would not be difficult to discover that the fog was actually the purest heaven and earth spiritual qi. This was the biggest secret of the Silver Blizzard City. This was a stone room that was completely formed by nature. In this stone room, sitting on a naturally formed lotus seat, one's cultivation progress would be at least 10 times faster than in the outside world. Throughout history, only one person could enter this place. Only the Lord of the Silver Blizzard City, the leader of the Han family. This secret had always been passed down by word of mouth and would never be leaked to outsiders. However, this stone chamber also had a greater restriction. If one's strength had not reached the superior supreme level and recklessly entered the lotus seat to cultivate, then it wouldn't take long before his body exploded and he would die. In fact, this was also reasonable. After all, the heaven and earth spiritual qi contained in this place was too thick, and the quantity was too great. Even experts who had reached the level of superior supreme could not cultivate on the lotus platform for too long. However, the successive city lords were still able to cultivate in this stone room. As long as they didn't enter the lotus pedestal, they wouldn't be overwhelmed by the overabundance of spiritual qi. Although his cultivation speed was far inferior to cultivating on the lotus platform, it was still 3 to 4 times faster than cultivating outside. Therefore, the city lords of the Silver Blizzard City were able to become great masters at a very young age. Take Han Zhanmeng for example. His innate talent was only above average, but he was able to successfully break through the ranks of the Supremes before the age of 50. Now, he was trying to break through the ranks of the Supremes. This was a mysterious cave that was accidentally discovered when the Silver Blizzard City was being built. Once it was discovered, it was immediately classified as a top secret. After the decline of the other two families, the Han family continued to keep this secret until now. Even though the Shao family had almost controlled the entire Silver Blizzard City, they still had no idea about this secret. The Lord of the Silver Blizzard City was sitting upright in that milky white beam of light. He was the third great master among the 8 great masters. He was second only to the chief great master Yun Bichen and the great master Li Jutian, the great master of the Snow Blizzard City, Han Feng Shui. But old City Lord Han's current level could no longer be judged by the Supremes. In fact, he had already surpassed the superior supreme level and reached an even higher level. This was the magical effect of this mysterious cave. Ever since Han Feng Shui had successfully broken through to the superior supreme level, he had kept this shocking news a secret. He had only passed the position of city lord to his son and had been in seclusion in this cave for 30 years. After Han Zhanmeng came in, he did not dare to make a sound and only stood quietly at the side. After a long time, the light finally moved slightly and an old man in white floated out. His clear eyes looked at Han Zhanmeng and said, "Meng-er, why have you come here today? You look so anxious. Is there something urgent?" The corner of Han Zhanmeng's mouth twitched, and a strange feeling arose in his heart. His youngest daughter's nickname was Meng-er, but his old father still called him Meng. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Come to think of it, when Han Zhanmeng had named his youngest daughter, Han Yenmeng, he had this thought in mind. No matter what, I'm the lord of the city, and I'm also her father, but you still call her Meng-er every day, it makes me feel uncomfortable. But it was not convenient for him to say it out loud, so he named his youngest daughter Meng. What he meant was, your granddaughter is also called Meng-er, so you can't call me Meng-er anymore, right? There should at least be a little bit of taboo, right? Who would have thought that her father, who had always been wise and far-sighted, seemed to be unaware of this. He still addressed her as Meng-er when he saw her, and also called his granddaughter Meng-er when he saw her. The 2 generations of father and daughter had the same name. Han Zhanmeng sighed and finally decided not to think about this infinitely depressing problem anymore. He had never won against his old father. He got straight to the point and said, Father, the situation in Silver City has been very strange recently. I have analyzed it for a long time and finally came to a very unexpected conclusion. I hope you can give me some advice." Han Zhanmeng's face was very serious and he said slowly, "Father, the Shao family has been very sneaky recently. I even suspect that they are secretly plotting something against the Silver City." "The Shao family?" Han Fengshui's eyes flashed and he laughed. Old Master Han was already over 100 years old, but from his face, he seemed to be about the same age as his son. If not for the fact that he deliberately kept his hair white, he would have looked like Han Zhanmeng's brother. "Just be careful, don't worry too much," Han Fengshui said indifferently. "The Shao family's perverse actions over the years are almost over. I guess their wild ambition has finally reached its peak. However, they don't have the power to directly shake the Han family. They can only play dirty tricks in the dark." "Then what do you mean, Father?" Han Zhanmeng was startled. He thought that his father would be shocked when he said such a big thing, but he didn't expect such a casual reaction. "If the Shao family has no ulterior motives, then we, the Han family, must continue to follow the teachings of our ancestors and continue to support each other through thick and thin. This is the teachings of our ancestors and must not be violated. And we, the Han family, have been doing this for thousands of years. Of course, we must continue to do so." Han Fengshui said lightly, "The relationship between the Shao family and the Han family is complicated. Now, it can be said that you are in me and I am in you. Whether the Silver City loses the Han family or the Shao family, it will be a great loss, and they will have to pay a heavy price. Therefore, 4 generations we have carefully protected each other. It would be a lie to say that it is not tiring. Under such circumstances, the Han family has always been the leader of the Silver City, and the Shao family as a support. The Shao family has never been the leader. It would be impossible for the Shao clan to not have any complaints after such a long period of accumulation. Therefore, sooner or later, the Shao family will have the intention to take over the Silver City. This is human ambition, human desire, it is inevitable, there is no need to make a fuss about it." Han Fengshui's eyes shone with wisdom as he looked at Han Zhanmeng and said with a smile, "In your generation, I don't know if it is a coincidence, but there are no male heirs, only 2 girls. Therefore, the Shao family's ambition is growing. In addition, there is a strong fear, so it is reasonable for them to choose this time to act. Because this is the best time." "Reasonable?" Han Zhanmeng was speechless. Could it be that it was reasonable for the Shao family to betray the Silver City? Of course it is reasonable, why not? Any family that had been enslaved by another family for thousands of years would want to be the master of their own family. Although we, the Han family, have never enslaved the Shao family, but for thousands of years, the Shao family has done many things for us. It is natural for the Han family to do the same thing, but for the Shao family to do it, in their hearts, it is slavery. Different status, different mentality. This has been the case since ancient times. Moreover, after putting in so much effort, it is the Silver City that reaps the benefits, not the Shao family. If it were you, you would feel the same way, right?" Han Fengshui smiled and said, "Therefore, the old saying, those who are not of our race are bound to have a different heart. This old saying is very reasonable. So, what should we do? The oath made by our ancestors still hangs in the hall. As long as the Silver City exists, the descendants of the Shao family will never die. Generation after generation, the ancestral teachings will never be broken." Han Zhanmeng recited the ancestral teachings in a low voice and frowned. "If we act up and deal with the Shao family, won't we be going against the ancestral teachings? This matter was witnessed by the whole world, this. Who said you should deal with the Shao family?" Han Fengshui frowned and looked at his son. "Why do you want to deal with the Shao family?" "Ah?" Han Zhanmeng was confused by his father. His eyes widened and he did not know what to say. he stammered. Not deal with the Shao family? Then, don't tell me we're going to hand over the Silver City's foundation? Chapter 659. This. Han Zhanmeng seemed to have understood a little, but his mind was still a mess. Breaking the promise, we can't be the first to break the promise. But what if the Shao family breaks the promise? That's their problem. Although our ancestors forbade us from breaking the promise, he didn't tell us to stretch our necks and wait for death, right? Han Fengshui snorted and said, the Shao family breaking the promise makes them enemies. And it's a life and death grudge that wants to destroy the Han clan. Do you need me to teach you how to deal with enemies? Besides, if the Shao family really makes a move, it's a great thing for the Han clan, because we can finally get rid of this. He didn't continue, but the meaning was clear. I understand. Han Zhanmeng bowed his head in complete submission. His father's wisdom, decisiveness, and sharpness were far beyond his own. Good. Meng-er, you have to understand one thing. The so-called brothers, there is another saying, 2 brothers for a lifetime. You have to look at this sentence cautiously, especially the first 3 words, 1 lifetime. This is the key. Han Fengshui sighed and said, brothers can go through fire and water for each other, even die 10,000 times. However, after this life, the descendants of brothers might not necessarily become brothers. If it goes on for a few more generations, they may become passers-by or even enemies. He sighed and said, even if they are brothers born from the same mother, after a few generations, the blood relationship will fade. Not to mention the descendants of brothers with different surnames. As time goes on, is there ever a banquet that doesn't come to an end? So, don't forcefully transfer your feelings to the next generation. Because that's a shackle to the next generation, an enormous shackle. I'll remember, I won't forget. Han Zhanmeng finally relaxed. Since his father said so, he was already prepared in his heart. The reason why I mention this to you today is to wake you up, to let you understand that you made such a mistake with Yao and Meng, and because of this mistake, how much tragedy has it caused? Do you understand? Han Fengshui looked at his son helplessly and even a little annoyed. But it was only after the Shao family begged me to agree to the marriage. It was difficult for me to refuse. Han Zhanmeng lowered his head guiltily. You stopped the Shao family from seeking revenge after the incident with Yao. So, you felt that you owed them something. So, you gave them more and more power in the Silver City, and let them take charge of some important places. But you didn't know that this was an irreparable mistake. Once there was such a wound, it would not heal. The more you accommodate them, not only will they not feel grateful, but it will also encourage their ambitions. So, if the Shao family rebelled, it was actually because you allowed them to do so in the past 10 years. Han Fengshui looked at his son sternly. You should know that you are the leader of the Silver City. He was the master of the Silver City. Even if the Shao family was dissatisfied, what could they do? If he dared to show his true face, he would be punished according to the family rules. As a leader, if he did not have cruel and ruthless methods, how could he not fall? So, your benevolent character has cast the root of this betrayal. You must take this as a warning. Fortunately, it has happened now. If it happens again after I die, then wouldn't the thousands of years of hard work of our ancestors belong to the Shao family? Then, how will you face the Han family ancestors? Han Zhanmeng was sweating profusely. He was ashamed beyond words. Han Fengshui smiled and said slowly, well, it's good that you understand. It's not too late to mend the pen after the sheep is lost. You should go out first. You should know that the Silver City still has the Han family. Even if the Shao family rebelled, they wouldn't be able to do much. He gently sneered. Then, he casually said, do you think that you're very powerful just because you've got more than 20 spirit Xian experts? Han Zhanmeng was relieved. He suddenly felt that there was nothing in the world that was worthy of his attention. His father was already a super expert at the venerable realm. If the Shao family's Shen Xian couldn't even enter his eyes, then in his father's eyes, wouldn't he be no different from a chicken or a dog? There's one more thing. It's about the Jun family. Jun Moxie from the Jun family has announced that he will come to the Silver City on the 2nd of February to take revenge on the Shao family. Father, do you have any other opinions on this? Han Zhanmeng was about to leave when he suddenly thought of this matter and asked. The cycle of karma and retribution. The Shao family should bear the consequences of their own actions. The Han family must not get involved in this matter. Han Fengshui's eyes flashed and he said in a low voice, even if the Shao family did not rebel before this, we must not get involved. 10 years ago, the Jun family was bullied by the Shao family without the slightest ability to resist. But today they can fight back. It's only been 10 years, you have to see what this means. The Jun family is definitely not a party to be trifled with. Han Zhanmeng's heart skipped a beat and he walked out with his head down, suddenly feeling relaxed. The only thing on his mind now was the safety of the third elder and his daughter, who had been away for a long time. He no longer cared about the Shao family's little tricks in the Silver City. Maybe Han Fengshui was confident and thought that everything was under control, but how would the truth turn out? This was something that no one could say for sure. Nothing was absolute in this world. Everything was possible. The 14th of the first month. Jun Mo Xie frowned as he sat in front of Princess Ling Meng's bed. He stretched out his finger to feel her pulse. Dugu Xiaoyi, who was beside him, had a worried look on her face as she asked anxiously. How is she? She won't die, Jun Moxie said lightly. Aya, why are you so cold? Dugu Xiaoyi pouted and rolled her eyes at him. Sister Raimu is so pitiful, and you are still making sarcastic remarks. When will Sister Raimu wake up? Pitiful? She is indeed pitiful. But there are so many people in this world who are more pitiful than her. She is definitely one of the luckier ones in this world. After all, she still has us to take care of her. Jun Mo Xie slowly retracted his finger and said lightly, her injury was actually not that serious. Wen Songyu's palm was extremely powerful, but it wasn't aimed at her. She was so desperate to save her mother that she took it head-on without caring about her own condition. She was pushed down by the huge force, and when she fell, she accidentally hit a stone on the ground, which injured her skull and caused a blood clot in her head. That's why she was unconscious until now. If I were to break it open for her, I would be able to wake her up immediately. But now, her consciousness is in a mess. Even though she is unconscious, it is still the same. If she wakes up at this time, her skull injury has not healed yet. Once she becomes emotional, and we are not around, it is very likely that her blood vessels will burst and she will lose consciousness forever. So, I will try not to move her. Let her wake up after her trauma is basically healed. Poor Sister Raimu. I don't know how she will face such a cruel fact after she wakes up. With tears in her eyes, the little girl looked at Princess Raimu lying on the bed and said pitifully. But the next moment she returned to her usual self. Her pretty big eyes stared at Jun Moxie with jealousy. Brother Mo Xie, has your mistress been looking for you these days? No. That girl can't wait to hide from me. How dare she look for me? Jun Moxie smirked and pinched Dugu Xiaoyi's smooth and pretty face. He chuckled and said, I have a way to deal with little Lolas like you, ha ha ha. Dugu Xiaoyi blushed and shouted, Who is the same as that girl? I am not a loli. During this period of time, she had already understood the meaning of loli. Listening to these words, it was obvious that Jun Moxie was thinking that she was too small. How could she tolerate this? She immediately puffed up her cheeks and retorted angrily. You say you are not a loli. Then what are you? Jun Moxie held back his laughter. I. Dugu Xiaoyi rolled her big eyes and suddenly chuckled. She actually struck a flirtatious pose and said in a seductive voice, My place is big. I am already a big girl. It is not a problem for me to get married. The place that should be big is big. Where is it big? Why can't I see it? Come here, let me feel which part is big. June Moxie said in surprise and reached out his hand curiously. Pervert. Dugu Xiaoyi jumped and dodged it. She hugged her chest and said with hatred, I said? I can get married. Who asked you to check? Really? Then. I will definitely find a good husband for you in a few days. June Moxie was shocked and immediately said seriously, Xiao Yi, what do you think of Tang Yuan? Leave it to me as long as you nod your head. June Moxie vowed solemnly. Dugu Xiaoyi was instantly furious. She screamed and jumped into his arms. She opened her mouth and bit his shoulder with her snow-white teeth. June Moxie howled and bared his teeth. Little girl, why are you like Little White? Your teeth are really good. After saying that, he remembered that he hadn't seen Little White for a long time. He couldn't help but ask, where's Little White? Little White is big now. I can't carry him anymore. Dugu Xiaoyi whistled proudly. Suddenly, a white shadow rushed in and jumped into June Moxie's arms. It was Little White with a leopard head and big eyes. Damn, he's really heavy. June Moxie grabbed its two front paws and pulled them down. He roughly estimated that this fellow was at least 50 kilograms. He actually grew so fast. When Sister Shui Yan was here, she often fed it, so it became fatter and fatter. Its body also became bigger and longer. It's not Little White anymore, it's Big White now. Dugu Xiaoyi mumbled. It's big now, but it's not as cute as before. She suddenly became excited and said, but Little White is very powerful now. My brothers can't beat it anymore. June Moxie was shocked. How old is this fellow now? The 7 bull-like strong men of the Dugu family can't beat it anymore. Chapter 660. June Moxie didn't know that when Mei Xueyan was here, she had fed Little White good food that the previous leopard kings couldn't even get their hands on. Under such extreme stimulation, in addition to the fact that Little White had already been promoted by June Moxie, it naturally grew at a godly speed. Not only that, the strong medicinal effects of those good food were still in its body that hadn't been completely digested. If it was completely digested, it would probably be comparable to a peak 8th level Xian beast even before it truly grew up. One had to know that a peak 8th level Xian beast was equivalent to an expert like Tian Xian. However, the moment he mentioned Mei Xueyan, June Moxie couldn't help but feel a little startled. Had she already left for so long? Her return date was set at the 2nd of February. She would be back in a few days. Dugu Xiaoyi sensitively noticed that he was distracted and couldn't help but say worriedly, Big brother Moxie. You have big sister Xueyan, but you can't abandon me. I'm already yours, I've been yours even longer than big sister Xueyan. June Moxie almost spat out the tea in his mouth as he asked with a dumbfounded expression, What? Since when are you one of my people? When did this happen? Why didn't I know about it? It's yours. It's yours. Dugu Xiaoyi pouted and shouted, Anyway, you can't abandon me. I want. Of course I want. June Moxie suddenly beamed with delight and stretched out his hands. Come, good Xiao Yi, let big brother hug and kiss you, and also check where you've grown big. Dugu Xiaoyi shrieked and looked at him while trembling. You? What do you want to do? Don't mess around. Since you're already mine, what's wrong with hugs and kisses? Isn't this proper procedure? Come, don't be shy. June Moxie's smile became even more sinister. You don't come over. I'm going to scream. Dugu Xiaoyi jumped and almost jumped to the door. Her face was deathly pale, and she still had some lingering fear in her voice. No, no. I saw it that day. Sister Qing Han was very miserable because of you. Suddenly, she turned around and ran away. June Moxie was stunned. I saw it that day. Sister Qing Han was so miserable because of you? June Moxie couldn't help but think of Guan Qing Han. He thought of Dugu Xiaoyi's words, and his heart started to burn with passion. Then, he thought of Guan Qing Han and Duge Xiao Yi's words. Although this little girl was quite fierce at times, she was still quite cute most of the time. He walked out of the door with a smile on his face. He wanted to see if the little girl had gone far, but he didn't expect to see another little girl, Han Yenmeng, hopping over with her hands clasped behind her back. June Moxie laughed and said, It's my little wife. We're really fated. Are you here to warm my bed? Quick, quick, let's hurry while it's still early. Han Yenmeng screamed as soon as she saw him. Her beautiful face turned pale. She turned around, and hastily ran away like a fish that had escaped the net. The young Master June had been feeling very happy since he had managed to deal with the two little Lolas in such a short time. In fact, he felt very proud and elated. So, he smiled mischievously, turned around, and walked towards his courtyard. He was about to enter the Hongjun Pagoda to refine pills, but he was stopped by Junwui the moment he turned around. As the 2nd of February approached, Junwui was even more diligent in his cultivation. But his appearance here surprised June Moxie a little. The 2nd of February is approaching. What are your plans? Third Master June had buried this matter in his heart for a long time. His eyes were burning with passion. Wait, June Moxie said. Wait for the people from Tian Fa and the Dongfang family to arrive. Then we can set off immediately. The journey to the Silver City is a long one. Even if we set off now, we may not be able to make it in time for the 2nd of February. What are your plans? Junwui was a little anxious. Third uncle, you must know that Tian Fa has a special kind of flying Xian beast. June Moxie smiled and said, I've already arranged everything. We can set off when the people from grandmother's family arrive. So that's how it is. Junwui was relieved. At this time, they suddenly heard a voice coming from the door. It was the guard's voice. Young master, may I ask who you are looking for? Sunrise Dongfang, I am invincible. A childish voice sounded. But it was filled with the vicissitudes of life. Big brother, please tell June Moxie that I, Dongfang, am invincible. June Moxie snorted and laughed. Sunrise Dongfang, I am invincible? Young Master June took a step out of the door, and it was none other than that eccentric little boy. June Moxie pretended to be serious and said, It's actually Dongfang. Hero has arrived. The walls of my house are shining. May Hero Dongfang rule the martial world for thousands of years. Cousin. Ha ha. I'm here. It was Dongfang and Little Huai outside the door. They opened their arms and rushed over. Suddenly they stopped and scratched their heads. What did you say? What? Rule the martial world. This is an exclusive slogan that I, your cousin, specially made for you, Hero Dongfang, June Moxie said sincerely. Sunrise Dongfang, I am invincible. Since I am invincible, I am invincible. Wouldn't it be a waste if I don't establish a world-shaking cause? So, naturally, I want to unify the martial world for thousands of years. What do you think, Hero Dongfang? June Moxie said with a smile. Sunrise Dongfang, I am invincible. Unify the martial world for thousands of years. Dongfang repeated it twice. Then, his eyes lit up. He laughed and said arrogantly, Not bad. Not bad, that's great. Unify the martial world for thousands of years. This is the direction that I, Dongfang, will work towards after I am invincible. Cousin, you're really too talented. Just a few simple words made my blood boil. This is a noble goal. Although thinking of it is equivalent to half the success, the other half still needs perseverance to be completely successful. June Moxie encouraged him. Yes, I understand. Dongfang Xiaobai's eyes lit up as he fell into an extreme fantasy. A long, shiny line appeared on the corner of his mouth. Suddenly, he somersaulted in the air and laughed. The sun rises in the east, only I am undefeatable. Unify the martial world for thousands of years. Wah-ya-ya-ya, ah woo-woo-woo. Kid, what are you shouting for? A voice came from behind. It was Dongfang Wenqing and the others. They had not seen each other for a few steps, but Dongfang had already jumped over. Dongfang Wendao grabbed his son and slapped his little butt. Silly kid, what are you shouting for? Unify the martial world? This is not something that can be said so casually. Dongfang Wenqing said heavily and looked at Jun Moxie reproachfully. Since ancient times, the martial world has always been divided. Each does their own thing. There has never been such a thing as unifying the martial world. Even the three Holy Lands do not dare to say that they have unified the martial world. They have always been doing things their own way. If this gets out, the Dongfang family will become the target of public criticism. It's just an ambition. I believe they won't take it too seriously. Besides, if the disciples of the Dongfang family take this as their goal, I believe it's also a good thing. Jun Moxie laughed dryly. His mouth was still talking nonsense, but he felt a little guilty in his heart. After all, the method of bearing children that he had given to his uncle before he left was indeed very effective, but it was also very. Why didn't he go crazy this time? And it's such a long journey. It's really tiring. Emosia, is the old man at home? Dongfang Wenqing looked at Jun Moxie lovingly. There was a strong sense of gratitude in her eyes. Jun Moxie was startled. Didn't he realize that there was something fishy about it? And he's still doing it? He can't be so slow, can he? Suddenly, his body twitched inexplicably and he burst into laughter. Jun Moxie's guess was right. Dongfang Wenqing had not realized that Jun Dashao's prescription was a joke. Not only did she not realize that it was a joke, but she also felt that the medicine was effective so quickly and miraculously. She was most grateful to her nephew. How could she know that she had been tricked by her dear nephew? The group of people walked into the Jun family's house accompanied by Jun Wui. They exchanged greetings along the way. Jun Moxie approached Dongfang Wenqing and asked, "Uncle, are you tired? What are you talking about? It's been a long and arduous journey. How could I not be tired?" What nonsense are you thinking about? Don't you have any serious thoughts in your head? You're really asking for a beating. Dongfang Wenqing's face turned red, then black. How could he not know what his nephew was asking about? But how could he say it out loud? He immediately put on the airs of an uncle and reprimanded him sternly. Jun Emosia shrunk his head back. He was speechless at the way this fellow was trying to save face. "Fine. I wanted to remind you that you don't have to work so hard. I didn't expect that before I could open my mouth, I would get a hot fart. Just pretend that I didn't say anything. If you want to work hard, then go ahead and work hard." The number of sky rank and earth rank assassins that Dongfang Wenqing and the others brought was quite considerable. Each of them was a top-notch assassin. There were more than 100 of them in total. The three Dongfang brothers were leading them. With the help of Jun Moxie's miraculous elixirs, the former had broken through the bottleneck and entered the ranks of Supreme Masters. His strength had improved tremendously. Not to mention that his lifelong wish had been resolved by Jun Moxie. It was the time for him to be proud, especially the sky-rank assassins of the Dongfang family. They looked proud and walked with their heads held high. They felt that their lineup was enough to look down on the current generation. In the past, the Dongfang family had shaken the whole continent with their strength. This time, with a lineup that was even stronger than before, they were invincible and no hero in the world dared to be called. But this pride of looking down on the current generation was shattered soon after. Humans were still afraid of comparison. The oncoming grassland eagle deity, Solitary Eagle, had a cold expression. His elegant long hair flew in the wind. His black robe was like iron, and his eyes were like an eagle's. As soon as he appeared, an unprecedentedly powerful aura followed. And this was just the beginning, because the hurricane swordsman, Feng Wanyun, also appeared. His robe was as white as snow. His eyes were as sharp as swords. His body was tall and straight. His face was expressionless and silent like a mountain. But his aura was not the least bit inferior to that of solitary eagle. "I'm in a bad mood," I was reported again. "Boss called me out of bed early in the morning and scolded me for the whole morning. And I also corrected myself for the whole morning. Well, it was very complete. I was reported for being vulgar, erotic, violent, desecrating traditional culture, affecting cross-strait relations. Well, this time it's not affecting the international environment. But cross-strait relations. Where did that come from? Desecrating traditional culture, where did that come from? What a big accusation. I'm very impressed. I now believe that if the Third World War breaks out, it must be because of this evil monarch from another world. I'm very impressed with myself. Hee, I didn't know that I had such great power. I'm also very happy when I think about it this way, because June Moxie definitely doesn't have my ability. Playing the zither under the Chinese goldthread tree. I'll also make fun of myself. The book is still written and the plot continues. To those who report me maliciously, I can only say, I don't know who you are, and I can't control what you do in the future. Do as you please. It doesn't matter. Hearing the cries of the cicadas, don't you plant crops? Chapter 661. The appearance of two superior supremes at the same time, that kind of domineering and terrifying aura, the aura of a super-expert that emanated from their bones, was like a scorching sun that shone brightly, causing the heavenly rank assassins of the Dongfang family to instantly go silent out of fear. Oh my, so the Jun family still has two hidden experts. These are the experts of the experts. I should restrain myself a little. If I lose face here, it's not just me, but the whole Dongfang family. Hearing that the family had arrived, Dongfang Wenxin also came out to welcome them. The three brothers, Dongfang Wenqing, were pleasantly surprised to find that their little sister's complexion had improved a lot. They couldn't help but be overjoyed. A moment later, Jun Zhantian also came out to meet everyone. The group of people gathered in the main hall and exchanged greetings after a long time of reunion. Jun Wu-yi called out to his left and right, and arranged for the in-laws' troops to be properly arranged. At the same time, in the faraway Tian Fa forest, the entire troop was made up of 5 burly men. These burly men not only had rough bodies, but their appearances were also grotesque. There were more than 500 of them, and each of them looked ferocious and ferocious. Not a single one of them was easy to deal with. There was a very similar adjective for them, and that was valiant, strong. Strong. They were really too strong. Any one of them was more than 2 meters tall, and their arms and thighs were obviously at the level of a pole. When people saw them, their minds would be filled with valiant, tall, strong, valiant, strong, and other such words would automatically appear in their mind. And everyone's eyes were almost the same, cruel and bloodthirsty. There was almost no emotion in them at all. But at this moment, such a group of ferocious people were queuing up obediently, waiting to be scolded. These people were the first batch of people that Mei Shiyan had gathered all the peak-level Xian beasts to transform. And these Xian beast kings who had just transformed into human form all had the strength of a human supreme master. And almost all of them were high-level supreme masters. In other words, the strength of these people was at least equivalent to Long Crane and Bear Mountain when they first arrived in Tianxiang. A total of 500 people. What a terrifying force. Looking at the boss in front of them, everyone's eyes were filled with heartfelt gratitude and respect. Mei Shiyan sat up high, looking indifferently at the Tian Fa soldiers in front of her. There was a hint of fanaticism in her eyes. It had been 10,000 years. For 10,000 years, the Tian Fa forest had never been as glorious as it was today. Even when Tian Fa was at its strongest in the past, it had never displayed such frightening strength. At most, they would have more high-end forces than now, but their follow-up forces and potential would definitely not be as abundant as now. Each of these beast kings had consumed a pill just as they were about to break through and used it to charge forward in one fell swoop. In other words, each and every one of these beast kings had unimaginable potential for future development. In the future, there might be more than 500 Supremes, or even 500 Venerables. This was because they had already passed the most difficult stage of transformation, and they were about to break through the next stage in one fell swoop. In the future, his cultivation would definitely progress at a tremendous pace. From now on, their journey to becoming a venerable one would be a bright and smooth one. It was just a matter of time. If there were really more than 500 venerables, Mei Xuyan felt terrified just thinking about it. In fact, she even felt a little panicked. But the blood in her body also began to heat up. Right now, even if the 3 Holy Lands added up, there would not be more than 20 venerables. Even if the younger generation improved, it was just a matter of replacing the old with the new. It would definitely not exceed this number by too much. But TNFA, as long as there was enough time, they could produce 500 venerables. Or even more. What a terrifying number that was! And all of this was bestowed by June Moxie. At the front of the troops were the 8 Beast Kings led by Long Crane and Bear Mountain. The youngest Condor King was the most tragic. He had been in seclusion for a long time and had finally broken through with great difficulty. The moment he came out, he discovered that his Condor tribe had actually produced more than 10 Beast Kings who had successfully transformed. This shock was no small matter. After breaking through with great difficulty, he was filled with confidence. But at the same time, he felt that his position as a Beast King was so unstable that he was almost scared out of his wits. Mei Xuyan naturally would not mistreat her youngest brother. She gave the Condor King a pill, causing him to leap up another level. Only then did the Condor King calm down. But at the same time, he also felt a wave of regret. If I had known that there were such good things, why would I have gone into seclusion? How much suffering did I have to go through? How much trouble did I have to go through? How much trouble would it have saved me if I had just eaten 2 pills like eating candy? This thought of his led to a beating. This Condor King who had just come out of seclusion was directly beaten into a pig's head by Tiger King and Bear King. The 2 Beast Kings were filled with grief and indignation. All the good things were brought back by us. But the ones who were abused the most were the 2 of us. Was there still justice in this world? Seeing that their youngest brother was still trying to act innocent after taking advantage of him, the 2 Beast Kings did not hold back. Without another word, they went forward and gave the Condor King a beating. It was a beating that was even more explosive than a beating. With regards to this matter, Mei Xuyan, as the boss, had many complicated matters to attend to. She definitely could not turn a blind eye to everything and allow the Condor King to be tortured for 2 days straight. Since it had just broken through, it definitely needed more training. Hence, the Condor King was tortured to the point where its feathers were almost torn to shreds. Is that all? Is everyone here? Mei Xuyan raised her eyebrows and asked sternly. Everyone is here. Long Crane stood up straight with his mouth wide open. This mission is of great importance. There must be no mistakes. All the Flying Beast Kings will accompany us. In addition, select 1,000 peak-level Flying Xian Beasts and prepare to carry everyone to the Snow Mountain. This matter must be done properly. Mei Xuyan gave the order lightly, but her tone was full of authority and unquestionable. Yes. Long Crane was naturally in charge of the Flying Beast Kings, so he hurriedly agreed. Bear Mountain, you leave 50 people behind to guard the TNFA forest. The rest of you set off together. Mei Xuyan looked coldly at Bear Mountain. Yes. Bear Old Third puffed up his chest and replied in a high-spirited manner. Everyone wear a piece of clothing. It's fine when you're a Xian beast, but now that you've turned into a human, how can you look like this? Mei Xuyan frowned. Of the 500 Beast Kings in front of them, Other than Long Crane and Bear Mountain, who were well dressed because of their brother-in-law, the rest of the Beast Kings were still in their human forms and were naked. They only had some leaves to cover their bodies, making them look like the Hulk. Yes, boss. Big Bear beamed with delight as he agreed. He called out to a few Bear tribe members and turned to leave. Not long after, he came back, each of them carrying a mountain of red cloth in their arms. It was the leftovers from the previous purchase. Bear Mountain did not stand on ceremony. He raised his nose and ordered, "Everyone, take a piece of red cloth and wrap it around your body. Make a tree bark belt and tie it around your body. Look at all of you, you look like savages with leaves hanging all over your body. How can you behave like this?" Then Big Bear turned to Mei Shuiyan and said, "Boss, don't you think it's a pity to lose those bear fur coats? If we had brought them back, get lost." Mei Shuiyan only said one word. "This guy really has the cheek to say that." Bear Mountain shrank his neck and quickly turned around. He said fiercely, "What are you looking at? Why aren't you putting on your clothes? Putting on red cloth?" So, under Bear Big Beast King's order, the 500 strong men all turned into brides, all dressed in bright red. The Snake King couldn't help but laugh. It had to be said that such a fiendish and strong man was wearing a red cloth. It was a very visual impact to the people around him. The corner of Mei Shuiyan's mouth also twitched. Then, she returned to her usual cold demeanor and ordered sternly, "Everyone go back and prepare. We will set off in 2 days. If anyone doesn't listen, kill them." "Yes," the 500 strong men shouted in unison. Their eyes were filled with a wild fighting spirit. "After we go back, we will eat and drink to our heart's content. Go to the Monkey King's place and get some monkey wine. Drink as much as you can. This operation is for Big Sister's future, and for brother-in-law's great cause. Everyone, keep your spirits up. When we get there, if anyone makes brother-in-law angry, I will skin him alive." Bear Mountain glared and roared. It was like a fox borrowing the tiger's might. Roar. The 500 strong men's eyes were filled with excitement. Fourth brother, it's fine if you mobilize them, but why are you mobilizing my monkey wine as well? That's our treasure, and we don't have much of it. Are you trying to empty it?" Monkey King Ho Chi scratched his head and jumped up to protest. "I can't not protest. How many mouths are there? If everyone drinks to their heart's content, then the monkey race's 100 years of brewing wine will be gone. What's wrong? Are you distressed for Big Sister and brother-in-law?" Bear Mountain, Earthcracker, Sherbucho, and the others asked maliciously. Ho Chi was scared and panic-stricken. His face was as red as his buttocks. Who's anxious? It's just a little wine, right? Drink it. I don't feel distressed. Brothers! Everyone, go and get the wine. The Monkey King is very generous today. He just said that everyone can drink as much as they want. Don't be polite. If you can't drink it, you can take it away." Bear Mountain raised his arms and shouted. Wow! A strange roar pierced through the sky of Tian Fa. Monkey King Ho Chi wanted to cry, but no tears came out. The 500-plus people scattered like 500 excited brides. Their bright red clothes reflected the snow on the ground, making them look like nimble flames as they dashed towards the Monkey Clan's gathering place. Mei Shuiyan couldn't help but laugh. She stood up and walked down with Qian Sun Serpent Queen. "Big Sister." Ho Chi looked at her pitifully. "Ho Chi, isn't it just a little wine? Is it worth it to feel distressed?" Mei Shuiyan rolled her eyes at him and said in a low voice, "I'll give you one more divine pill later. You won't feel bad about it, really?" Ho Chi opened his eyes wide. His eyes turned red in an instant. He looked like a pair of fiery eyes at this moment. "Really?" Mei Shuiyan nodded and smiled. Wahaha roar! The Monkey King screamed and jumped. He did a dozen somersaults in the air. Then, he rushed out and shouted, "Drink! Everyone, drink to your heart's content. If it's not enough, We have a secret warehouse over there. We can drink as much as we want today. Chapter 662. Seeing the Monkey King acting so funny and changing so quickly, the Chien Sun Serpent Queen couldn't help but laugh out loud even though she was full of worries. In the distance, the 9th-level Xian beasts, who had just transformed into their human forms, were wearing red cloths. They were twisting their butts as they chased after each other. A strong aroma of wine had already spread throughout the Tian Fa forest. At the same time, on a mountain peak far away from human habitation, this place was an independent mountain peak surrounded by mountains. This place was very close to the Pillar of Heaven's mountains. Surrounded by mountains and ravines, this mountain peak stood out from the rest. In addition to being surrounded by mountains, it was also surrounded by clouds and mist. The clouds and mist were like white ribbons, floating and sinking halfway up the mountain, faintly discernible. An elegant figure came as if riding the wind. From the foot of the mountain, he did not seem to stop at all. He went all the way to the peak of the mountain as if he was riding on the clouds. With a wave of his sleeve, a leisurely strong wind slowly blew out from his sleeve. It was gentle and slow. However, a pile of rocks in front of him suddenly silently turned into stone powder that filled the sky. With a wave of this person's sleeve, the stone powder was flung out with a schwa sound. It was unknown how far it flew. On the ground of the mountain peak, a wide platform with a circumference of 40 to 50 feet appeared out of thin air. The man smiled faintly. His hands grasped the air and suddenly lifted up. In the center of the platform, a large stone suddenly rose up slowly. It was as if it had originally been placed on the ground. The large stone slowly rose up, and its shape constantly changed subtly. Finally, it turned into a small and exquisite tea table. It was smooth and clean, and the light was like a mirror. That person did the same thing, and made 3 more armchairs next to the small tea table. Although the armchairs were made of stone, they were extremely comfortable to sit on. The lines were even softer, as if they were made by heaven. That person chuckled and casually grabbed a stone the size of a human head. He casually squeezed it, and in an instant it turned into a teapot. On the teapot there were dragons and phoenixes embroidered on it, vivid and lifelike. Even a famous craftsman might not be able to carve such exquisite craftsmanship. The teapot was ready, and a few teacups appeared one by one. At this time, he stopped and took out a small bag from his bosom. There was only a small handful of tea leaves in it. The man carefully poured it into the teapot, and then with a wave of his right hand, the pure white snow on the mountain peak actually flew over from the void and condensed above the teapot. Then it automatically turned into a pool of clear water and poured into the teapot. In a moment the teapot was full. The man waved his hand, and the snow in the void disappeared without a trace with a schwa. The man slowly sat down on the main seat of the 3 armchairs and held the teapot in his hand. In just a moment, the teapot actually emitted traces of hot air. After another moment, the water in the teapot was completely boiling. A rich tea fragrance floated out and did not dissipate for a long time. He gently lifted the teapot and first poured himself a cup. The tea was dark green in color, and the bottom could be seen. The strong fragrance filled the air. He took a sip, and a faint smile appeared on his face. This man looked to be only about 30 years old. His face was like jade, and his lips were red and his teeth were white. His eyes were like bright stars, and his eyebrows were like distant mountains. He wore a white robe with a light green belt around his waist. It was slightly tightened, but it made him look even more elegant and elegant. He leisurely sat down. Sitting at the peak of this mountain range, it was as if he was sitting in his own home. The piercingly cold mountain wind blew his hair and robe, and his entire person seemed to be riding the wind and flying away. Anyone who looked at him would know that he was a graceful and talented scholar. However, no one would have thought that this scholar would have such a heaven-defying technique. Without a sound, even the clouds at the waist of the mountain didn't move in the slightest. Almost at the same time, two figures strangely appeared behind the white-clothed man. It was as if they had been standing there for a long time. "You've come." The man in white did not turn his head and said lightly, "I've prepared some good tea. I'll treat you to a cup. The tea has been boiled 3 times, and the timing is just right. This is produced by the only 10,000-year-old tea tree in the Immortal Palace. It only produces a few taels of tea every year. You're lucky." Behind him was a purple-robed old man and a middle-aged man in hemp garments. Both of them looked confident and at ease. They looked like ordinary people who had never practiced Xian skills before. The purple-robed old man casually sat down on an armchair. This old man had round eyes and a leopard's head. His stature was tall and sturdy, and his body was strong and healthy. His face was covered with a curly beard. At first glance, he looked like a fierce Zhang Fei. It seemed as if he did not have the slightest bit of scheming. Anyone who saw him for the first time would think that he was a reckless and impulsive man. If one were to say that this person did things according to his heart, and did not consider the consequences, no one would doubt it. In short, he was the most typical symbol of a well-developed but simple-minded person. However, such a person was actually the master of one of the 3 holy lands, the master of the illusory ocean of blood, Huyen Ao Bo. This person could not be underestimated. Anyone who dared to look down on this straightforward man would pay a heavy price. They would either die or eventually serve him. No matter how shrewd, careful, or intelligent they looked, they were no exception. This was not a rare thing. If he was a brainless person, how could he lead one of the 3 holy lands, the illusory ocean of blood? If one had to give an evaluation, then Huyen Ao Bo was definitely an iconic person who pretended to be a pig to eat a tiger. "Mo Wudao, you little white face. Pei, you old white face. Ai, what should I say about you, old man? 200 years ago, you had the appearance of a white-faced scholar. You're still the same now. Just looking at you gives me a headache. You made yourself look like a little white face. Don't tell me you want to go out and seduce innocent women? You shameless old thing, you haven't used it for 80 to 100 years. Can you still use it?" Huyen Aobo picked up a cup of tea and said casually. While looking at Mo Wudao with disdain, he swallowed the tea in one gulp. Then he let out a comfortable breath. "The 10,000-year-old tea tree is indeed extraordinary. It's delicious. Who doesn't know what's going on? Huyen Ao Bo, please don't show your hoodlum face in front of us. Actually, we all know that you're a very sinister old man. Deliberately acting in front of us is just making a fool of yourself." The white-clothed man, Mo Wudao, smiled lightly and raised the teapot. "You say I'm old white-face. How many years has it been? Haven't you been pretending to be a hoodlum and a villain? Actually, everyone is already tired of looking at you. Old Shi-er, don't you think so? Who doesn't say so? Everyone knows that the worldly gentleman, Mo Wudao, is a hypocrite. Acting like a white-faced scholar and a little white-face is just right. It's his true character. But you, Venerable Ao Tian Huyen Ao Bo, is a downright despicable person. Yet you insist on acting so excessively. You think that just because you're a little taller and deliberately grow a big beard, you can act like a barbarian. In fact, who can you fool with your sinister and despicable face? This I've known for at least 200 years. The hemp-clothed man, who had insulted the 2 people as soon as he opened his mouth, leisurely sat down and politely picked up a cup of tea. First, he brought it to his nose and deeply sniffed it. Then, he gently took a sip, closed his eyes and carefully savored it. After a while, he sighed and said, "It's really good tea, good tea." The aroma lingers in the mouth and the aftertaste is endless. Drinking this wonderful tea and closing my eyes, isn't it better than facing a hypocrite and a despicable person? On his head, he wore a shining golden crown. Under the illumination of the sun, It was as if a golden rainbow had been added to the mysterious peak of the mountain. Shiruo-chen, are you a good bird? Huyen Aobo said angrily. Golden Crown King, Shiruo-chen. Ha ha, you wear a crown every day and act like a king in the supreme golden city. Actually, everyone knows that you used to sell straw sandals many years ago. This hemp-clothed man turned out to be the lord of the supreme golden city of the three holy lands, Golden Crown King Shiruo-chen. As for the white-clothed man, he was naturally the lord of the hermitage, the worldly gentleman Mo Wudao. In this cold winter weather, the masters of the three great holy lands had actually gathered here. But why? Hearing Huyen Aobo's sarcasm, Shiruo-chen didn't get angry. He just squinted his eyes and smiled faintly. He shrugged his shoulders and said with interest, "This reminds me of an interesting incident many years ago. At that time, I remember that Huyen Aobo lost a bet after drinking. I forgot what the bet was. I only remember that he stroked his hair in a flirtatious manner in front of the two of us and said in a coquettish voice, 'This humble one is Huyen Aobo. Everyone says that this humble one is very proud. Look, is it really proud? If this matter is publicized in the illusory blood sea, I believe it will be very interesting.'" Mimicking the tone of a prostitute, he said these words in a seemingly casual manner. When he finished, he burst out laughing. Mo Wudao laughed and clapped his hands. He was overjoyed. Huyen Aobo's face instantly turned purple, and he said angrily, "We have already agreed not to mention this matter again. Why did you say it again? Do you think your words are bullsh*t? Mo Wudao was overjoyed and said, "This is retribution. Who asked you to expose his background and say that he sold straw sandals? You asked for it, so how can you blame anyone else? Isn't that right, old Shi-er?" Huyen Aobo snorted and said, "Both of you are not good people. Didn't you collude with each other to make things difficult for me the last time we met? You can't even clean up your own mess, and you still have the cheek to talk about me. This time, we are not deliberately making things difficult for you. We are really curious." Shiruo-chen smiled and said, "Huyen Aobo, you old brat, you even asked if Mo Wudao's item could be used. Actually, we have always been curious about where you are depressed. Where is it? But this time, I finally understand. You are already over 300 years old, but you still have a son who is not even 50 years old. You are really depressed where you should be depressed, and erect where you should be erect. I admire you, ha ha ha." Chapter 663. Mo Wudao burst into laughter. He held the tea table with his hands and laughed so hard that he almost couldn't breathe. The most important thing was that when Shiruo-chen said this, he had a serious look on his face, and when he said that he had a son in his 50s, his tone was full of amazement. It made people laugh. Huyen Aobo's face turned red, and he rubbed his thigh with his thick palm. He said angrily, "What's wrong with this? This proves that the old lady's heart is not old, and she is not old at all. Unlike you guys, did I say anything wrong? I saw that your items are rusty and can't be used anymore. If you're not convinced, take them out and show them. Is it shameful for me to have a son? At least my grave will emit some green smoke after 100 years. What about you guys? Ha ha. Green smoke? I think it's green smoke?" Shiruo-chen rolled his eyes in disdain. "I heard that your precious son was scared by a junior, June Moxie, and you still have the face to brag here. Who knows, he might be castrated when he goes out. Aren't you worried that you'll have to watch your son die before you?" Speaking of this, Huyen Aobo's face suddenly turned gloomy. "June Moxie. Mo Wudao, what are you trying to do by asking us to come here in such a hurry? What's the point of saying all this? Is it fun?" "June Moxie." Mo Wudao smiled elegantly, making his rosy lips and white teeth appear even more prominent. He spoke clearly. "The reason I invited the two of you here today is for this young man." "Haha, Mo Wu Dao, don't tell me your brain is in knots? He's just an ant-like young man. Is it worth it for the three of us to gather here and discuss with such great fanfare? Are you overestimating this young man, or are you not taking our identities seriously? Are you getting worse and worse? Huyen Aobua sneered. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw the other two looking at him as if he was an idiot. Jun Moxie, 18 years old this year. The direct descendant of the Tianxiang Empire's Tianxiang City's Jun family, the son of the white general Jun Wuhui. According to the data, this boy had been extremely naughty and mischievous since he was a child. In fact, he had the bad reputation of being the #1 debauchee in Tianxiang during his youth. It could be said that he was extremely unbearable. In fact, his Xian Qi cultivation hadn't even reached grade 4 until last March. However, 3 months later, she had suddenly advanced to the Gold Xian realm. Then, 3 months later, when she had first arrived at the Southern Heaven region, she had already reached the peak of Yu Xian's cultivation. After returning from Tiannan, he had climbed to the peak of Tian Xian's level. This period of time was less than 2 months, and after he returned to Tianxiang City, he suddenly became an expert of Shen Xian in less than a month. Together with the venerable Mei of the Tian Fa forest, he went to the Dongfang family. On the way, he even displayed the cultivation of a supreme martial artist. Although this kind of advancement is terrifying, it is still within the scope of control. However, just a few days ago, the third city lord of the Supreme Golden City, Du Ju, personally tested this boy. His cultivation is at least at the level of a supreme martial artist. When one reaches the level of a supreme martial artist, it is extremely difficult to control him. Shirua Chen slowly explained everything that had happened in Jun Moxie's life in detail. Towards the end, his tone became heavy. This young man, from a mere grade 3 to the level of a supreme martial artist, did not even take more than a year. He successfully broke through more than 30 levels and climbed to the ranks of the world's top experts in one fell swoop. Huyen Aobo, I don't know if you still think that Jun Emosia is just an ant that can be crushed at any time after listening to this. Do you have the confidence? Anyway, I don't. Huyen Aobo's face changed instantly, and he stuttered. According to the intelligence of the illusory blood sea, Jun Moxie has always been intelligent. For the sake of the Jun family, although he has extraordinary skills, he has been enduring humiliation and humiliation ever since he was a child. He has never revealed his powerful strength and only played around with the name of a playboy. The so-called playboy and mischievous playboy is just a facade, but how did he become like this? This is too unbelievable. This is also a coincidence. The Supreme Golden City has just brought in a talented newcomer as a reserve candidate for the war for seizing the heavens. This person is also from Tianxiang City, a direct descendant of the imperial tutor's mansion, Li Yuran. This person has been paying attention to Jun Moxie for a long time, and he has never missed any of Jun Moxie's movements. Shi Ruochen said solemnly, and Jun Moxie's previous cultivation cannot be faked at all. From the detailed information provided by Li Yuran, the Supreme Golden City's 9 elders, 5 masters, and 3 city lords have come to the same conclusion. He suddenly raised his head and said word by word, before this, Jun Moxie was definitely not faking it. Moreover, all of his achievements had only come from this year onwards, one after another. In other words, this person has rushed from the 3rd grade to the Superior Supreme in just 1 year. Mo Wudao's calm face finally became serious. On the other side, Huyen Aobo also opened his eyes wide and fell into deep thought. As the leaders of the Holy Lands, these two people could be said to have seen a lot of things in their lives. In this world, it was rare for anyone to be more knowledgeable than these two people. But when they heard the speed of Jun Moxie's improvement, they were shocked and even horrified. This was not a speed that a human could have. Even the legendary immortals might not be able to achieve this. But this fact was clearly placed in front of them. From the inferior third-grade Xianqi to the superior supreme in 1 year. The three of us used to be proud of our outstanding cultivation speed, and we were also proud that no one could surpass us in our respective fields. Now, may I ask you, from the third-grade Xianqi to the superior supreme, how many years did it take? Shi Ruochen sighed and asked. Mo Wudao's face darkened, and Huyin Ao Bo's eyes flickered, but neither of them spoke. Because both of them felt speechless. Compared with such a speed, the speed that they were proud of was not worth mentioning. The three of them were about the same age, and their cultivation was also similar. They were confident that they were all geniuses, and their speed of cultivation was one of the things that they were proud of. From nothing to the superior supreme, it only took them 50 years. Such a speed of cultivation could basically be regarded as the best in this world. But now, when compared to Jun Mosie's speed, he felt as if he was nothing more than a piece of trash. The thing that they were most proud of had now become the most ridiculous joke. This kind of feeling made the three of them very uncomfortable. Even if they knew that Jun Mosie's progress wouldn't last forever, and that it wouldn't prove anything. But the facts were the facts. The facts had proven that someone had managed to accomplish what they had painstakingly struggled for 50 years in a short span of a year. According to my guess, Jun Moxie's miraculous speed of cultivation means that his talent is naturally the best in the world. There is no doubt about this. But this is still secondary. The real key should be his mysterious master. Shi Ruochen made the final decision and said in a deep voice, "Only an extremely powerful master, a mysterious skill that we don't know about, and some other miraculous encounters can create such a miracle. So, the main reason why I invited the two of you here today is because of this. We must have an effective strategy to deal with it." Mo Wudao's face darkened, and there was a rare look of worry on his jade-like face. Don't forget that the three Holy Lands have worked together to deal with Venerable Mei several times. And now, Venerable Mei is actually in love with Jun Moxie. Everyone knows that we can deal with Venerable Mei no matter what. Because although Venerable Mei is a Xian beast, he is able to see the big picture. For the sake of the war for seizing the heavens, I believe that he will not go too far. A gentleman can be deceived easily. Then, he continued, and Venerable Mei happens to be a true gentleman. We've taken advantage of this. That's why we've been able to force her into a corner time and time again. Moreover, we don't have to worry about our own safety. Although we admit that we are a little despicable, it is undeniable that this is the Jianghu. But now, the situation has completely changed. Shi Ruochen continued. Ever since Venerable Mei joined hands with Jun Moxie, the situation has become messy. Firstly, with the help of Jun Moxie, their power has increased. Secondly, I believe that under the influence of Jun Moxie, Venerable Mei's attacks are becoming more and more vicious. Now, he doesn't seem to care about the war for seizing the heavens anymore. He has become a vengeful person. The number of experts that the three Holy Lands have lost is close to 100. This is a rather terrifying number. Even with the foundation of the three Holy Lands, it is still a little difficult for us to bear the burden. From a certain point of view, Venerable Mei is quite traditional. He would rather be hurt than let the world be trampled on. This is what he pursues, and also the creed of Tianfa. Therefore, it has become something that we can use to our utmost advantage. Before this has always been his biggest weakness. But this Jun Moxie is different. This person can be said to be an extremely vicious character. This man isn't a gentleman at all. In fact, he's a complete bastard. From Jun Mosie's actions, it can be seen that he is extremely narrow-minded, protective of his own people by nature, vicious and merciless and cruel. He has never repaid enmity with kindness. He has always pursued the principle of an eye for an eye and blood for blood. towards anyone who stood in front of him, he would kill them all without mercy. He is decisive in his actions, decisive in killing, and never soft-hearted. He is also extremely vengeful and will seek revenge for the smallest grievance. He can be said to be an extremely terrifying young man. Thinking of his terrifying growth speed, this young man is now a great threat to the three Holy Lands. The degree of danger is even higher than that of Venerable May. Jun Moxie will be the biggest threat to the three Holy Lands, Mo Wudao said solemnly. Chapter 664. Explode. Third. Fourth, I'm working harder. Shi Ruochen sneered. I'm not the only one who said this. If he's given the chance to grow, the destruction of the three Holy Lands will be imminent. Based on his character and style, he will not care about the war for seizing the heavens. In fact, he is a lawless person. The safety of the continent and the people of the world may be able to make everyone worry, but it will not affect him. Because in his eyes, the people of the world are no different from grass. Therefore, his plan to deal with the three Holy Lands is inevitable and predictable. Huyen Aobo put away his reckless attitude and spoke in a deep voice with a dignified expression. So, this Jun Mo Xie can be said to be a natural-born man of the pugilistic world. You should know that these things are not something that can be taught. Even an experienced Jianghu man may not be able to reach this level without decades of training and countless lessons of blood and tears. But Jun Moxie seems to be self-taught, and he is even more familiar with it than us who have been in Jianghu for hundreds of years. That's right. Jun Moxie was born to be a Jianghu man, but he was born into a powerful family. But we have to admit that Jun Mo Xie will bring calamity to our three families in a few years at most. Because we have dealt with his women, and not just once. This is an irreconcilable enmity, and for an extremely arrogant and self-centered person like Jun Moxie, it is definitely an irreconcilable enmity. Mo Wudao raised his eyelids and said slowly, You should know that he dared to go against the Shui Hun manor for a mere Guan Qing Han, who was not even his woman at that time. This is a lesson for him. His slow words made Shi Ruochen and Huyen Aobo feel heavy at the same time. Everyone has a weakness, and Jun Moxie is no exception. His weakness lies in his family and his women. This is his biggest weakness. But at the same time, this is the strongest point. Shi Ruochen sighed deeply, because there are many indications that his mysterious master is stationed at the Jun family's residence. And this is also our greatest worry. We don't even know who his master is, what level of cultivation he has, and what level he has reached. We don't even know where he came from. We don't know anything. Shi Ruochen smiled bitterly. So far, we only know that the person who taught such a disciple must be an earth-shattering figure. And that time, 90 experts from the three Holy Lands were suppressed by his aura at the same time. This proves this point. His ability will only be above our estimation, and it will definitely not be any worse. This kind of cultivation, I admit that I don't have it. That's why we can't act rashly even though we know that a great disaster is right before our eyes. It's not that he can't, but he doesn't dare to. Mo Wudao concluded. In other words, everyone is now in a dilemma. We can't advance, and we can only wait for death if we retreat? Huyen Aobo furrowed his thick brows and said unhappily, Could it be that our three Holy Lands have been forced to this extent by a mere junior? Although we don't want to admit it, this is the truth. Mo Wudao and Shi Ruochen smiled bitterly at the same time. Do you think that the mysterious master of Jun Moxie is from the Misty Mansion? Huyen Aobo suddenly asked cautiously. I don't think so. Maybe the mighty people from the Misty Mansion can do it, but they haven't shown up for thousands of years. If they can, I'm afraid that they are like the old bones of the Misty Mansion. Moreover, I'm afraid that even the Misty Mansion can't achieve such a cultivation speed. And there is only one person who can do it. As far as I know, He is the only one who can achieve such a cultivation speed. A sharp light flashed in Emo Wudao's eyes. Who? The other two asked at the same time. The 9 Nether. 14th young master. Emo Wudao said word by word, and his eyes revealed a strong sense of fear. It was as if the name itself had an indescribable magical power. Even he, the Lord of Hermitage, could feel his soul trembling. That's right. Huyen Aoba and Shi Ruochen sucked in a breath of cold air at the same time. Only that monster could do this. But the Misty Mansion and the 9 Nether Secret Realm have been in conflict for tens of thousands of years. The battle between the two has never happened in the secular world. It would be too unfair if it's just a guess. Besides, the 9 Nether 14th young master might not have the patience to train his disciple. When Huyen Aoba said the name 9 Serenities and 14 Masters, he seemed to have a toothache. He clenched his teeth and sucked in a breath of cold air before he managed to finish the name. Anything is possible, Emo Wudao said worriedly. Don't be careless. It's never too much to be careful. But a careless mistake could lead to an irreversible disaster. The 3 Holy Lands' 10,000 years of foundation will be destroyed. But right now there's a huge opportunity. If we use it properly, not only can we destroy June Moxie and the Venerable Mei, we can also lure out the people behind them, and the 3 Holy Lands can annihilate them together. Even the 9 Serenities and 14 Masters might not be able to withstand the joint attack of the 3 Holy Lands. Shi Ruochen said slowly, with a look of desperation on his face. The other two did not speak, but their eyes were fixed on his face. The June family's June Moxie is about to leave for Blizzard Silver City. I believe that this time, the Venerable Mei will also send out a large number of Tian Xian beasts in order to help June Moxie. Blizzard Silver City will not be able to resist such a force. But this time, after everyone goes, the June family's defense will be at an all-time low. Shi Ruochen's eyes flashed with a hint of malice. Lingling said, So, the summit of the Snowy Mountains is a rare opportunity, and Tianxiang City is another rare opportunity. If, you mean? Emo Wudao's eyes lit up, and then he fell into deep thought. He frowned, and his eyes were full of conflict and indecision. The June family that June Moxie belongs to is now at odds with the Tianxiang imperial family. And the June family's power is not something that a mere imperial family can resist. But this time, we will make an exception and intervene. Among the 3 princes, the 3 Holy Lands can support one of them. Then, we will incite the forces of the secular world and the experts from all over the world to put pressure on the June family. We will test the limits of the June family. When June Moxie and the Venerable Mei go to Blizzard Silver City, we must make a mess of the June family, and let the hidden expert in the June family surface. First of all, even if it doesn't work, the 3 Holy Lands can always stay out of it. Secondly, we can also gather our superior forces and take down the forces behind the June family in one fell swoop if we succeed. And that little thief June won't be able to enter our eyes even if he's a peerless genius or a peerless genius. But this time we can't do it on a small scale. We must gather the most elite forces, and once the attack starts, we must be ready to kill at any time. There must be no mistakes. Shi Ruochen raised his head, looked at Huyen Aoba and Emo Wudao, and said word by word, This time, only saint-level experts can succeed. Ordinary so-called experts, even if they are venerables, will only be courting death. If the 9 Serenities and 14 Masters are in the June family, I'm afraid that even some saints will fall. Everyone must be prepared for this. I believe that this loss will be inevitable. Huyen Aoba and Emo Wudao almost stood up in shock at the same time. Could it be? That's right. We, the Supreme Golden City, can send 3 saint-level experts. Let's go all out and participate in this battle. Shi Ruochen calculated in silence. He stretched out his white fingers and knocked on the tea table 3 times. It was just 3 light knocks, but the crisp sound echoed in the mountains. He said word by word, 3 saints. Mo Wu Dao stood up with a solemn expression on his face. He paced a few steps, looked up at the sky, and took a deep breath before he forced himself to speak. All right, in order to ensure complete victory, our elusive world of immortals will send 3 saints as well. The illusory blood sea can also send 3 saints. The 3 holy lands will work together to defeat the enemy. In comparison, Huyen Aobo seemed to be very happy. But the twitching muscles on his face showed that he was not as relaxed as he said. Then, we will send people to Tianxiang to disrupt the situation and force the Jun family. Strength is not the most important thing. The most important thing is to be resourceful, patient, and able to endure what others can't. You should know that if you're not careful, you'll lose everything. Shi Ruochen said calmly. I believe the 2 of you have your own plans. Our illusory blood sea will send Zi Jinghong. Although this kid's Xian cultivation wasn't very high, his brain was first-rate. When it comes to scheming, he's even better. Huyen Aobo snorted. Let him bring a few good men to cooperate with us. If it's just to create trouble, it should be enough. Well, then our great golden city will send Liu Ran and a few experts to go there. Liu Ran is a local born and raised here. Although he is young, he is calm and has the demeanor of a great general. It should be helpful. Shi Ruochen smiled. We will discuss this after I return to the palace. In any case, there won't be any delays. Mo Wu Dao said with a dark face. This time, we must eliminate Jun Mo Xie and Venerable Mei. Chapter 665. Mo Wu Dao said calmly. On the other hand, if we can gain something from this battle, it will be a great harvest. Just the Xian Dan of level 9 Xian beasts alone will not be a small number. And the Xian Dan of the Beast King. All of these will be able to bring the strength of our 3 holy lands to a higher level. Huyen Aobo rolled his eyes and said, If it doesn't work, we might as well do it ourselves. Do it ourselves? How dare you? Shi Ruochen looked at him disdainfully. You pretend to be a fool every day, don't tell me you've become one? Think about the consequences of this. That will only cause the entire Tian Fa forest to go crazy. As long as we don't do anything, we can suppress them to a certain extent. Do you understand, Aobo? Huyen Aobo said angrily. Don't be so sarcastic. Be careful, or I won't be polite to you. Shi Ruochen picked up his teacup and snorted. Be polite? Have you ever been polite to me? For this battle, each family must be led by 2 venerables and at least 50 superior supremes. Let's go to Blizzard Silver City. Mo Wu Dao looked at the 2 bickering and made the final decision. That's good. Sai, the 2 Shao brothers of our supreme Golden City have been looking for me every day, begging us to send troops to help. How annoying. Finally, we have an explanation. Otherwise, people will say that our supreme Golden City is heartless. Shi Ruochen heaved a sigh of relief. It seems that the Shao family and the Han family in Blizzard Silver City are not on good terms with each other. At least, they are not as harmonious as they claim to be. Our Hermitage's protector Han has strongly requested not to participate in the battle. Haha, it seems that there will be a good show to watch. Mo Wu Dao smiled and looked towards the north, where Blizzard Silver City was located. The 3 finished their discussion and were about to leave. Before they parted, Huyen Aobo suddenly asked, Mo Wu Dao, how do you judge Venerable Mei's true strength compared to yours? Mo Wu Dao's eyes flashed as he looked at the Lord of the Illusory Blood Sea. Then, he pondered for a moment before replying, We were evenly matched when we fought last time. But I'm sure that she wouldn't be a match for me if we were to go all out. As for after that incident, she was injured and had been silent for nearly 100 years. Who was stronger and who was weaker? What do you think? Huyen Aobo's words revealed the meticulous thoughts that he had hidden beneath his boorish face. Hearing Mo Wudao's reply, Huyen Aobo laughed heartily and said, "If that's the case, then I'll immediately go back and prepare. I believe that in this battle, the 3 Holy Lands will have a considerable harvest." Then, without any further greetings, his huge body suddenly flew up and slowly pierced through the clouds. His rough laughter was still echoing in the air, but his body had already disappeared in a flash. Shi Ruochen smiled slightly and said, "This guy has always been like this. He definitely won't stop unless he takes advantage of something. Brother Mo, do you have anything else to add? As for the matter of Tianxiang City, we must probe it thoroughly before we act. Old Shi, a saint is different from a venerable or even someone above the supreme level. They are all existences that we can't afford to lose." Mo Wudao looked at Shi Ruochen solemnly. "If anything goes wrong, you should know what the consequences will be. Big brother knows second brother. Your hermitage can't afford to lose them, but can our supreme golden city afford to lose them?" Shi Ruochen laughed, but his laughter was full of gloom. After laughing for a long time, he actually sighed. "But we can't afford to wait either. If we continue waiting, wouldn't it be the same as sitting and waiting for death? With this brat Jun Moc's terrifying rate of improvement, who can guarantee that he won't be able to break through to the venerable realm, or even the saint realm? Brother Mo, this is a huge hidden danger. The 3 Holy Lands have been around for tens of thousands of years, and now they have a great foundation. Please don't destroy them in the hands of the 3 of us." Mo Wudao's face turned gloomy once again. He didn't say anything, but quietly floated up. His slender body was faintly discernible in the sea of clouds. He turned his back to Mo Wudao and rolled up his long sleeve. A teacup on the table a few feet away suddenly jumped up. "Old Shi, I advise you to drink another cup of tea. You and I will part ways here. We will meet again someday." "Same to you." Shi Ruochen caught it, laughed loudly, and drank it in one gulp. When he looked at the clouds again, Mo Wudao's figure had already disappeared. Shi Ruochen stood alone in the clouds, and as he looked at the surrounding clouds, he could not help but sigh softly. The clouds instantly enveloped the entire high platform, and the sigh continued to reverberate. However, Shi Ruochen's figure had already disappeared in the clouds, as if he had never been there. On the towering peak, there was only a huge stone tea table and 3 exquisite armchairs. On the table, a small teapot was quietly placed on top. The 3 teacups were arranged in a triangular shape, quietly, until the end of time. That night, the people from the 3 Holy Lands were divided into 2 groups, and they headed north. One to Blizzard Silver City, and the other to Fragrant Sky City. The next morning, in the Tianfa forest, Mei Shuiyan was dressed in a snow-white robe. Her pretty face was filled with endless killing intent. She looked at the black mass of flying Xian beasts in front of her, and slowly walked in front of the formation. Her phoenix-like eyes were filled with dignity and solemnity. With a high and mighty pressure, she asked in a deep voice, "Is everyone ready?" The 9 beast kings at the front of the line opened their mouths at the same time. "Everyone is ready. There are 1,500 flying Xian beasts, and 459 shape-shifted beast kings. Everyone is ready and we can move at any time. Boss, please give the order." "Very good." Mei Shuiyan let out a long breath. She looked at the sky with a complicated look and said in a low voice, "We will definitely face the 3 Holy Lands when we go to Blizzard Silver City this time. The 3 Holy Lands have many experts, and their strength is even more tyrannical. They have been eyeing Tianfa for a long time, and this time, we will definitely face an unprecedentedly fierce battle. Even I don't have the confidence to come back alive, so all of you must be prepared." "Who cares about the 3 Holy Lands? Let's CK them up." Bear Mountain roared. "So what if they are strong? We are not afraid. Long Crane's eyes were full of fighting spirit. Right. What's there to be afraid of? Let's CK them up. All the humanoid beast kings roared at the same time, and a ferocious atmosphere suddenly formed. Before they even set off, the group was already filled with the smell of blood. Each and every one of these beast kings had fought their way up in Fa forest step by step, adhering to the most cruel principle of natural selection in Fa forest. Which one of them hadn't been through hundreds and thousands of battles? So what if the enemy was strong? Just kill them. Just fight to the death. This was the only understanding these beast kings had towards battle. Moreover, they had just obtained a huge breakthrough, and all of them felt that they were extremely strong. If they were to randomly summon any one of them and let them sweep through the 3 Holy Lands, they would probably not hesitate to do so. And they would even charge forward confidently, smashing everything from north to south. Very good. Take the Ant King, Wolf King, Bee King, and Rat King, and set off immediately. Divide into 10 echelons and set off in sequence. The first stop is Tianxiang City. A cold light flashed in Mei Shiyan's eyes as she waved her slender hand. Long Crane let out a long cry that shook the 9 heavens. Then, he suddenly soared into the sky, and with a schwa sound, he transformed into a huge snow-white crane with a wingspan of over 20 meters. It was as big as a ping, and its wings covered the sky. Then, it flapped its wings as it soared into the sky. Mei Shiyan's white robe flashed, and she did not seem to move, but her slender figure had already soared into the sky, and stood proudly on Long Crane's shoulder. Long Crane flapped his wings and took the lead. Mei Shiyan's white robe fluttered and she stood proudly. The oncoming wind blew her hair, revealing her beautiful face. Right now, it was cold, and there was only a trace of passion and longing in her eyes. A thick murderous aura rose from the Fa forest. 100 giant cranes soared into the sky, and followed behind Long Crane as they flew in a majestic manner. The second group was a group of rocks, and Bear Mountain's majestic body sat on the back of the first rocks, soaring into the sky. Behind him, there was a large group of strong men, all standing on the backs of rocks, all dressed in bridal outfits, and their red robes fluttered in the wind, dyeing the entire sky red. The third and fourth groups were the Crane race, and the fifth group was still the Rocks race. The sixth, seventh, and eighth groups were the Eagle people, with the Eagle King transforming into Black Lightning, leading the way. As for the ninth and last group, they were from the Condor tribe. The Condor King flew high into the heavens, leading his brothers in hot pursuit. On the Xian continent, an unprecedented hurricane suddenly blew. A total of thousands of beast kings came out of Fa, causing an earth-shattering tremor. On the way to Tianxiang, Mei Shiyan's white robe fluttered, her long hair flying in the wind. She released her aura as the king of the Xian beasts, causing the entire world to be filled with an icy coldness. That was a bone-chilling coldness, mixed with the unique pride and cruelty of the Fa forest. Dominating the world. Ruling the world. Whether it was intentional or not, all the beasts in the path of this group were met with a calamity. The first to bear the brunt was Tiannan City. Whether it was the Xian beasts, domestic animals, or even the horses in the army camp, all of them suddenly trembled and fell to the ground. All the animals were the same, their limbs twitching, their bodies convulsing, and their mouths foaming. This kind of terrifying aura was too concentrated, and it was not just one or two, but a shocking number of thousands. Just like that, how could ordinary beasts withstand it? Even if it was just a glimpse, it was still unbearable. At this moment, it was already not bad that they were not crushed to death on the spot, and only lost control for a moment. As for the weaker chickens, ducks, and geese, they were directly flipped over. General Wan Wuyen, who was in charge of Tiannan City. Although his Xian Qi cultivation was not high, he had a certain level of attainment. He had just climbed out of his bed, and before he could even put on his clothes, He felt a terrifying aura enveloping the sky and earth, and he almost fell to the ground. At the same time, the people in the backyard were shouting and horses neighing, and the whole city was in chaos. I'm still working hard, my fingers are a little cramped and sore. This kind of feeling, I believe my brothers and sisters who have been typing for a long time can understand. From early morning until now, I have not rested. I don't know if I can make it to the 5th chapter, but I hope that my brothers and sisters can give me some strength. Monthly votes. Smash the 5th chapter. Chapter 666. This was not an exaggeration at all. A total of more than 500 beast kings were traveling together. How could the combined aura of experts be insignificant? It was simply overwhelming. Everywhere in the vast universe was filled with this kind of extremely valiant aura. Even a master of the Tianxian level, or even a master of the supreme level, would not be able to withstand it, let alone an ordinary person. General Wan was so shocked that he did not even bother to put on his clothes. He was only wearing a pair of shorts, exposing his hairy chest and thighs. Forcing himself to support himself, he ran out in a panic. Standing in front of the doorstep, he looked up and could not help but feel his scalp tingle. His whole body turned cold as he blurted out, "Oh my God! Oh my dear mother!" The sky in the south suddenly turned dark. A huge crane spread its wings and flew over. Its red eyes stared fiercely at the heavens and earth. On the back of this majestic crane, a graceful woman in white stood upright. Whether it was her expression or her temperament, it was filled with a domineering aura, as if she was the ruler of the pugilistic world. Whoosh! With a whoosh sound, the man and the crane directly flew over Tiannan City's sky. The hurricane caused the flags on top of Tiannan City's city walls to flutter in the wind as they flew straight into the sky. Then, hundreds of giant cranes flew over, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. They flew in an extremely arrogant manner, completely looking down on everyone else as they whizzed past. General Wan directly sat on the ground. If it was not for the layer of fine cloth covering his body, it would have been a case of hitting a rock with an egg. Oh my God! Oh heaven, earth! Just what did I do to provoke this group of ancestors? This time, the momentum is much bigger than the last time. Too much, too much. What should I do, what should I do? Wan Wuyan's face was pale as he muttered to himself. But the shock had not yet passed when another batch followed. Another batch. Yet another batch. Oh my God, there is no end. The nearly naked General Wan scowled miserably as he hurriedly ran into the backyard. I have to quickly send a message to the military headquarters. This. Oh my God. General Wan was horrified to find that the carrier pigeons and harriers that had been trained to send messages in the general's mansion for a long time were all foaming at the mouth and lying limp in their cages. They could only exhale but not inhale. Dozens of well-trained flying animals that were used for communication were actually crushed to death by this huge aura. Perhaps it should be said that he was scared to death. General Wan was dumbfounded and stood rooted to the ground along the way. The heartless venerable Du Ju was leading dozens of experts from the great golden city. These people were all top-notch experts. When they exerted their full strength, they were naturally as fast as a gust of wind. However, as he was advancing with all his strength, Du Ju's face suddenly changed. He waved his hand and all the masters of the supreme golden city instantly understood and quickly hid in the mountains. Du Ju raised his head and looked into the distance. His face suddenly turned pale and his mouth slightly opened, revealing a kind of inexplicable shock and even a little panic. This kind of loss of composure had not appeared on his face for many years. Everyone at the scene was quite surprised. However, before they had time to ask, everyone's expression changed almost at the same time. Because the answer was self-evident. An unprecedentedly powerful and shocking aura descended. Everyone was shocked and looked up in succession. They saw a big crane flying across the sky in the distance. Then, there was a large flock of cranes that covered the sky. On the back of the white crane that was leading the flock, there was a slim figure in white who was unscrupulously exuding an arrogant aura. She stood proudly with a disdainful attitude. Venerable May. Third crane rushing to the heavens. And a large flock of mysterious cranes. How is this possible? Du Ju almost lost his voice and his face was dripping with cold sweat. He naturally saw the burly man on the back of the flock of cranes. He could not help but exclaim, "Where did these humanoid beast kings come from? I'm going to faint. Could it be that they have just been born? Oh my God, this is a big problem. If they really have so much combat power, how can the strength of this city be enough?" The heartless Venerable Du Ju, who had always been cruel and indifferent, unexpectedly burst out a vulgar word. Moreover, he did not stop swearing. His face was twitching and his saliva was flying everywhere. Obviously, he was shocked to the extreme. Before he finished complaining, there was another huge shock. Venerable Du's body swayed and he almost fell to the ground. The experts from the great golden city behind him were all dumbfounded. This was because a large flock of rocks followed closely behind the flock of cranes. With an invincible aura, they broke through the sky full of clouds and smashed the white clouds in the sky. They flew over in an extremely domineering and arrogant manner. On the back of the rocks, with their eyesight, they could clearly see that there were strangely shaped burly men with ferocious eyes. They stood proudly against the wind and flew past like heavenly soldiers and generals. Then, there was an overwhelming flock of cranes, flock of rocks, flock of eagles. Flock of eagles, flock of eagles. The elders in the Holy Lands burst out a large number of vulgarities. Moreover, it came from the mouths of these superior supreme experts with white hair and beard. All of them stared blankly at the sky with their eyes wide open, as if they were dried mummies. Oh my God! This is the power of Tian Fa that the City Lord sent us to deal with this time? Are we having a nightmare? How can Tian Fa have such a terrifying number of combat power? Third City Lord, facing such power, aren't we just sending ourselves to die? There are only 1, 2, 3, 40 to 50 people. Oh my God! The large number of flying Xian beasts in the sky had already flown away for a long time. The stench of blood still lingered on the ground. At this time, a superior supreme expert with triangular eyes shouted with strong shock and fear in his bones. He kept on swearing, "I am really convinced. So many peak-level Xian beasts. They actually want us to go and destroy them. Are they asking us to die?" Wave after wave of surprises surged towards him, causing the heartless Venerable Du Ju to feel as if he was about to soar into the heavens. His cheeks twitched and the corners of his eyes twitched. He gritted his teeth and said, "Immediately send people back to Gold City and ask the City Lord to send more people. This little amount of people is not enough. They don't even have the qualifications to fight. Even if the 3 Holy Lands send out all the combat power this time, it's just a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. It won't be of any help. Even if we send ourselves to die, it won't be enough." Du Ju stood up slowly and looked at a skinny old man beside him. "Old Third Fong, your lightness skill is the best and your speed is also the fastest. Quickly return. Inform the City Lord to send more people. We need at least 4 venerable level experts." He needed at least 30 more superior supreme martial artists. "Quickly go." The skinny old Third Fong hurriedly agreed. He also knew that the situation was urgent and did not waste any time. His body stretched out and disappeared in an instant like a rabbit that had been shot by an arrow. "Everyone, slow down and wait for reinforcements. We must not let Tian Fa's forces discover our existence. When the reinforcements arrive, we will attack Silver City in one go. Be careful." Du Ju's face darkened and he gave the order without any hesitation. At the same time, the people from the illusory blood sea also stopped and made the same decision. Zhen Ci Bei of the elusive world of immortals also made the same decision with a pale face. At this moment, the experts of the three holy lands were completely stunned by the sudden eruption of Tian Fa Forest's terrifying power that was enough to shake the world. All of them were like ducks in a pond after being struck by lightning on a sunny day. Haze, the commotion from the Tian Fa Forest this time had shaken the entire world. Countless forces were trembling as they made their own guesses. Especially those who were on good terms with the Silver Blizzard City, but hadn't gone to help. They were rejoicing. The heavens have blessed us. We're lucky that we didn't go. If we had gone, perhaps we would have become the feces of the Xian beasts. Looks like I really have foresight. On a grassland, a seemingly illusory and unreal silhouette swept over. Suddenly, it stopped and slowly became real, revealing a skinny man dressed in black. His eyes were filled with murderous intent as he looked at the group of profound beasts flying across the sky. A blood-red desire to fight suddenly surged in the depths of his eyes. The sword at his waist seemed to have sensed his strong desire to fight. As if it had a spirit, it suddenly let out a light clang and unsheathed half a foot. A cold light flashed, like cold water in the winter. It shone faintly, cold and beautiful. It emitted a dreamy radiance, glistening under the setting sun. It was magnificent and indescribable. Autumn Dew Invincible Sword. My good comrade, now, it's finally time for us to go all out again. Blizzard Silver City, Blizzard Silver City, I wonder how many people will be sacrificed to my sword this time? Snow Wind Supreme Martial Artist Han Feng Shui, I have wanted to fight with him for a long time. This time, let me fulfill this long-cherished wish of mine. This person gently stroked the hilt of his sword. His tone was gentle, but it carried a dense and cold, killing intent. The sword let out a light cry, and the blade trembled slightly. A stream of light flashed, and a trace of blood slowly flowed. The owner of the Autumn Dew Invincible Sword. Naturally, it could only be the supreme assassin, Chu Chihuan. The day you wave your sword in the wind and snow will be the day I unsheath my sword in Blizzard Silver City. This was the promise that Chu Chihuan had made when he bid farewell to Jun Moxie. Chu Chihuan certainly remembered his promise. And he valued his promise even more. Moreover, the person who made him make such a promise was the only person in the world that he recognized, the King of Assassins. Therefore, the Supreme Assassin slowly turned around and headed towards the north. That was the direction of Blizzard Silver City. Chu Chi-hun's movement technique was extremely fast, and in a short while, he had disappeared into the boundless grassland. Only that cold, killing intent remained in the air. Wind and thunder raged in the sky. One day later, Tianxiang City was also bustling with activity. Jun Moxie stood in the courtyard of the Jun family's residence, his face solemn and murderous, his eyes flashing with a bloody light. It should be. Today is the day. 5 days later, it would be the 2nd of February. In the warmth of spring, flowers blossomed, and a single sword strike broke through the Silver City. Solitary Eagle and Feng Wanyun stood behind Jun Moxie. At this moment, they felt that this frail youth in front of them had turned into a towering mountain. His cold aura seemed to want to break through this frail body and soar into the clouds. Jun Wuyi's face was solemn and serene. His eyebrows were like swords, and it seemed as if they would burst out of his forehead at any time. His body was calm and composed, and he commanded with the air of a great general. It was the blood-cloaked general who had led millions of troops across millions of miles of the continent, the one who swore never to return. But this time, he was not leading a human army, nor was it a secular charge. It was a higher-level battle. A decisive battle in Blizzard Silver City, a decisive battle at the peak of Blizzard Silver City. Jun Mo was smart and resourceful, but he was also aware of his own limitations. He knew that he wasn't a commander who could lead an army into battle. But Jun Wui was. And he deserved it. Today is 5 chapters, asking for monthly votes. 5 chapters, 15,000 words. With the minimum of 2 chapters, 6,000 words, it could be said to be a super burst. Brothers, sisters, will the evil monarch's monthly votes be able to burst as well? After every burst, there would always be some trolls in the comment section. Let me say here, if you don't like this book, there is a red X on the top right of the webpage. As long as you know how to surf the internet, you will know what it means. I won't explain it here. Everyone, please conduct yourself with dignity. I have never opposed to reading pirated copies. Everyone has their own difficulties, I understand that. Because I also read pirated copies in the past, I know that feeling. So I won't force it. But after reading pirated copies, you still come to the comments section of the original book to scold people. I can't imagine how bad your quality is. You steal the fruits of others' labor with a clear conscience and still scold people. This behavior makes me speechless. Those who are familiar with me know that I am an author who must read book reviews every day. I used to leave a lot of comments when I read books. I also know the feeling of not being taken seriously or ignored. So, I always think that the comments in my comments section are the painstaking efforts of my brothers and sisters, and they hope that I can see them. I can accept them, so I can't ignore them. I can't ignore them either. I have said more than once that I am an author and also a reader. I understand everyone, and I understand everyone. Some of you must have noticed that some plots are quietly carried out according to some suggestions in the comments section. I did not ignore the wishes of my brothers and sisters. I respect you and value you, and I have already recognized you. Thank you for your suggestions for this book. When your suggestions are adopted by the books you like, that feeling is happy, it is happy. And it is a sense of accomplishment. So, I hope I can make you happier. So, every day, I bear the abuse in the comments section, looking for your comments, looking for the wishes of my brothers and sisters. This is my persistence and also my pride. Maybe some people will say that I am stupid, but I have never regretted it. Thank you, everyone, I am still me. I will still be like this. Chapter 667. Such a large-scale battle could only be commanded by an absolute commander like Jun Wui. Only then would he be able to make the best use of his talent. And he would be able to make the best use of his resources. It was a perfect match. The Dongfang family's 120 men were lined up neatly under the leadership of Dongfang's 3 swords. On the other side, Sikong and Yi was leading 30 experts of the Sikong clan. Their faces were solemn and respectful. Beside him, Duanmu Chao Fan was dressed in black. His face was cold and stiff. He was leading 3 of the Duanmu family's top experts. These 2 families had immediately sent their experts to support the Jun family after hearing about the Jun family's actions. Mu Shuetong's face was full of excitement as he stood to one side with Han Yenmeng. This day has finally come. Xiao family, your doomsday has finally come. This was the Jun family's current lineup. Dongfang Wenxian walked out slowly with a mournful look on her face. Guan Qinghan, dressed in white and holding a long sword, quietly supported her from the side. This was a journey for revenge. Dongfang Wenxian had to be present. Jun Zhantian looked at the experts in the courtyard and couldn't help but feel relieved. He stroked his beard and smiled. The rise of the Jun family will be in this battle. It will surely shock the world. The 4 seas will be shocked. This was something that Grandpa Jun had long since understood. However, this time, Grandpa Jun would not personally go. Grandpa Jun's status was still there. Although he wished to kill his enemy, he was still an elder. Revenge for his sons Jun Wuhui and Jun Wumeng was a matter for his grandson and son. If Grandpa Jun went personally, It wouldn't look good. Therefore, Jun Tian stayed behind to guard the capital. For his son and grandson, he would be able to manage a great rear without any worries. Together with him were the Heaven Destroyer and Spirit Devourer troops, as well as Bailey Luo Yun and Ling Ao's assassination team. In the current Tianxiang city, these forces were enough to intimidate everyone. Dugu Xiaoyi had also been left behind to guard the Jun family's residence. When she heard this, the little girl was so anxious that she jumped up and down. She wanted to go with them no matter what, but she was stopped by Jun Moxie's words. If you want to enter my Jun family, then you must first be obedient. What was the point of marrying a disobedient wife? Are you going to stay behind or must you follow? The choice is yours. The little girl naturally knew how to choose. She agreed with an aggrieved expression, but her heart was filled with endless joy. Waha! I'm about to enter the door. It wasn't that Jun Moxie didn't want her to go, but this mission wouldn't be as easy as she had imagined. He was afraid that his life would be in danger at every moment. Dugu Xiaoyi followed closely behind. In the midst of a battle of millions of experts, her meager cultivation base was simply not enough. Even the slightest aftershock would be enough to send her to her death. Letting Dongfang Wen Xian and Guan Qinghan follow was already the biggest concession that Jun Moxie had made. If it weren't for the fact that Dongfang Wen Xian needed someone to take care of her, he wouldn't even have agreed to let Guan Qinghan go. Not only did Mei Shuiyan have to participate in the battle, but she also had to take care of the overall situation. No matter what, she couldn't be the first choice to take care of others. The sun gradually moved to the west, and it was already afternoon. Dongfang Wenqing quietly approached Jun Moxie. Emocia, is this all we have? Where's your wife? Isn't she going to participate in such an important mission? Uncle Dongfang was a little worried. Based on their current strength, it could be said that they were strong enough. But when it came to fighting against Blizzard Silver City, he didn't dare to say that he had the confidence to do so. After all, the other party was a super aristocratic family, not an ordinary family. So he naturally thought of Mei Shuiyan, who had accompanied Jun Moxie to the Dongfang family last time. She was a real expert, a top expert. Why didn't he see her this time? Soon, she'll be back soon. Jun Moxie smiled faintly. Uncle, this time I'll let you see what the real all-Xian beasts come out from Tian Fa means. The oath of the Dongfang family will become history after this mission. The real, all-Xian beasts come out from Tian Fa? What does that mean? Dongfang Wenqing was a little puzzled. Was there a difference between the real and the fake? At this moment, everyone suddenly felt their eyes darken. The warm sun that was originally shining in the sky suddenly disappeared. From the southwest, a large patch of dark clouds suddenly rose, covering the sky and covering the sun. It actually blocked out all the sunlight. The originally warm weather of Tianxiang City, which was immersed in the rare warm weather of a harsh winter, was suddenly blown by a gale, and sand and stones were flying. What's wrong? What's going on? What's going on? Almost everyone felt the sudden pressure, and looked at the sky in surprise. Only Jun Moxie's mouth revealed a trace of a sincere smile. He looked at the distant sky, and his face was full of a bright smile. Woo! A deep, long, and domineering bird's cry suddenly resounded in the sky. Roar! It sounded like millions of people were roaring at the same time, and it sounded like 10 years of thunder had gathered at the same time on the same day. This kind of earth-shattering cry caused more than 99% of the people in Tianxiang City to temporarily lose their hearing. Even a top-notch expert like Dongfang Wenqing was greatly startled by this sudden change. He felt as if his mind was going to explode, and he felt extremely uncomfortable. It was only at this moment that everyone realized that the dark clouds in the sky were actually a large group of cranes. The ferocious aura and the huge size of the cranes were all reminding everyone that these cranes were all peak level 9 Xian beasts. Dongfang Wenqing and the rest looked at the sky with their mouths agape, and their brains short-circuited. It was not only her, everyone else had the same expression. In addition to the solitary falcon, even Grandpa June's face was filled with astonishment. On the head of the snow-white crane, there was a figure standing proudly against the wind. She was dressed in snow-white clothes, and her face was extremely charming. Her figure was graceful, and her black hair danced in the wind. Her figure was graceful, and her lips were full of smiles. Her eyes were like limpid autumn waters as she looked at June Moxie. Who else could it be but Mei Shuyan? Before this, none of them knew of Mei Shuyan's true identity. Now that they saw her appear in such a shocking manner, they could not help but be shocked. The dark clouds in the sky became thicker and thicker. It was the 1,500 flying Xian beasts circling above the June family's residence. The sandstorm they brought with them suddenly blew over. In an instant, every household in Tianxiang City was covered in dust. Dugu Xiaoyi and Han Yanmeng looked at Mei Shuyan in the sky. The two little Lola's eyes were filled with endless envy and amazement. Sister Shuiyan is really too handsome, too beautiful, when can I be like her? With a whoosh, Mei Shuyan jumped down from the sky like a fairy. Long Crane also did a somersault in the air, and turned into his human form, jumping down as well. June Emosia laughed heartily. He took 2 steps forward, opened his arms, and was about to embrace a soft and fragrant body. But Mei Shuyan's skin was already very thin. Furthermore, with so many subordinates watching, how could she let him hug her? If she was really hugged by him, where would the face of Tian Fa's boss go? However, the young Master June didn't manage to catch anything in his arms. Instead, it landed right beside the young Master June. She first greeted Grandpa June, then walked to Dongfang Wenqing. Before she spoke, her face was already red. "Mother, I'm back. It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back, haha." Dongfang Wenqing looked at her daughter-in-law with a smile. She held her daughter-in-law's hand as if she couldn't bear to let go. The shock in her heart had long been replaced by the joy of Mei Shuyan's return. Good heavens! The Xian beasts are really coming out of Tian Fa. Dongfang Wenqing's mouth was wide open as he looked at the huge army of Xian beasts in front of him. He pulled on his nephew's sleeves and said, "Good nephew, what is the identity of this woman of yours? Why is there such a big show? Do you think you can subdue such a woman?" At this moment, Uncle Dongfang was really shocked. How powerful must she be to be able to control more than 10 million Xian beasts at the peak of level 9? At this moment, Uncle Dongfang's brain had completely short-circuited. Dongfang Wenjian and Dongfang Wendao also came over, insisting on listening to their nephew's explanation. This was too shocking. I've already explained it so clearly. Don't you understand? June Moxie sighed helplessly. Can't you see that she is Venerable Mei? After that, June Dashao walked towards Mei Shuyan with a face full of joy. Only his 3 uncles behind him were left with a face full of shock. Venerable Mei. Oh my God! Our niece-in-law is Venerable Mei, it's actually her. Dongfang Wenqing's mouth was wide open, like a hippopotamus dying of thirst. She turned her head with difficulty and looked at her 2 younger brothers. I didn't hear wrongly, did I? Dongfang Wenjian and Dongfang Wendao swallowed their saliva with difficulty. Their eyes were still staring blankly, unable to say a word. On the other side, Mei Shuyan finally finished her greetings. She turned around and shouted, "Everyone, come down!" Instantly, the sky above was filled with noises of agreement. Countless burly men in brides' clothes jumped down. For a moment, the sky was dyed red with blood. At this moment, June Moxie rushed up like an arrow. While Mei Shuyan was commanding the Xian beasts, he launched a surprise attack and hugged her. He only felt a soft body in his arms, exuding a rich fragrance. He couldn't help but be intoxicated, and his whole body was intoxicated. Mei Shiyan was about to struggle, but she felt a warm itch on her ear. A big mouth was sucking on her jade-like earlobe. A warm voice was transmitted from her ear into her heart. "You're finally back. I've missed you so much these days." Mei Shiyan's body instantly turned soft. She suddenly felt her whole body go limp. She lost all strength to struggle. She could only let him hug her in his arms. Her face was red as if it was dyed with rouge. She looked even more beautiful than before. The sound of someone choking on their food rang out in the air. The red-robed men were all dumbfounded as they looked at their boss in June Mosie's arms. Their eyes were blank, and they fell to the ground like dumplings. Other than Big Bear and a few other beast kings, all of them were in a sorry state, baring their fangs in pain. This situation was too impactful. Chapter 668. We didn't even dare to look at her in the Tian Fa forest. We didn't even dare to raise our heads to talk to her. But now, this human youngster is holding her in his arms. Moreover, he has a blissful and adorable look on his face. Such an unimaginable scene had happened right before their eyes, causing these simple-minded mystical beasts who had just transformed to lose all of their abilities. They had wanted to show off their skills, but in the end they lost all of their consciousness and plummeted to the ground. Then, plop plop, many of the 9th-level peak flying Xian beasts who hadn't taken human form yet felt dizzy when they saw this. So, they closed their eyes and fell to the ground. The June residents shook for a moment. The rumbling sounds were like firecrackers during the spring festival. Dust rose to the sky, and countless feathers of different colors were flying in all directions. Those that were lucky enough to not fall were also swaying in the air, struggling to stay in the air. Their 2 wings were fiercely flapping, but there was no pattern to it at all. Naturally, because of this, there were gusts of hurricanes, and the hurricanes were coming from all directions. It was a marvelous sight. After a long time, everyone finally woke up from the shock. Bear Mountain, Earthcracker, and the others were furious. They thought that these guys had lost the face of the Tian Fa forest in front of so many people. So, they rushed up with black faces and kicked them. Then, they scolded loudly. "A bunch of useless things. How can you be stunned by such a small movement? Hurry up and come see our brother-in-law." Earthcracker was even more ferocious in his kicks. In fact, he had passed on the same words that Big Bear had used to curse him to his subordinates. "You bunch of country bumpkins haven't seen the market yet. Dog meat can't even be served on a proper banquet. Why don't you learn from my elegant, natural, and calm demeanor?" The Xian Beast Kings arrived in front of June Moxie and Mei Shiyan after they finished scolding them. They smiled flatteringly and said, "Brother-in-law, hee. Brother-in-law, well, everyone is good. Brother-in-law has a gift for you." June Moxie was delighted in his heart. After being called brother-in-law, he felt his bones lighten by a few taels. However, he couldn't help but be startled when he counted them. He thought to himself, "Good heavens, so many brothers-in-law. And all of them are burly and not easy to deal with. If a couple were to fight in the future, wouldn't this bunch of fellows pull one's hand?" June Moxie waved his hand, and the servants of the June family immediately brought out sets of embroidered robes, from the inside to the outside. Every collar of the robe was custom-made and was of the largest size. Fortunately, it was the largest size. When worn by this group of burly men, it actually fit exceptionally well. Almost all of them were over 2 meters tall. They were simply too muscular. In fact, June Moxie was a little envious. However, this group of fellows were a little too careless. Some of them stared blankly and threw the clothes on the ground as soon as they received them. Then, with a swoosh, they took off all their clothes. The red cloth was wrapped around their bodies, so it was naturally very convenient to take it off. With a swoosh, their hairy bodies and thick thighs were revealed. They grinned with happiness on their faces and were about to grab the clothes and put them on. After living for so many years, we're finally able to wear clothes, Dugu Xiaoyi and Han Yanmeng screamed, and turned around to cover their faces. Mei Shuyan's face immediately darkened, and she looked at Long Crane with an unfriendly expression. Bastard! Who told you to take off your clothes? Long Crane was flustered and exasperated. He raised his long legs and kicked the buttocks of those people. How immoral! You're a disgrace to Tian Fa. Those who were kicked covered their buttocks and gritted their teeth, but they didn't dare to cry out in pain. They blinked innocently, and their faces were full of innocence and confusion. How were they supposed to wear clothes if they didn't take off their clothes? Long Crane's kicks were merciless, and the pain penetrated deep into their bones. Jun Mo Xie held back his laughter. Then, he grabbed a bald man and taught him how to put on clothes. His attitude was very amiable. Yes, lift your feet, stretch them out one by one, put them on, stretch your legs, yes, lift them up, don't use too much force, don't tear them, next, tie them up, then this is the underpants, remember, tie them tight. This is the trousers, lift your feet, stretch your legs, yes, no, you have to first stretch out one arm for the jacket, don't stretch out the right arm first stretch out the left arm, yes, how clever! As for the outer robe, do the same, right, tie the belt. Jun Moxie took a few steps back and looked at this Xian beast that he had personally dressed up. He gave a thumbs up and said, really burly. This guy smiled embarrassedly, pulling here and there with his thick fingers. He turned around and looked at the back of his buttocks, just like how he looked at his buttocks and tail before he transformed. Only then did he open his mouth, revealing a mouthful of sharp teeth, and smiled honestly. Thank you, brother-in-law, hee, brother-in-law, you are a good person, I like you. Jun Moxie was overjoyed. Long Crane had already called down a group of flying Xian beasts and used his wings to form a large circle. A few hundred men took off their bridal clothes and changed into new clothes in this circle. Taking advantage of this time, Jun Moxie roughly explained the strategy and tactics that he had prepared earlier to Mei Shuyan. Mei Shuyan agreed without hesitation. Then she called Jun Wui and Jun Moxie over and faced the Xian beast. This battle will be commanded by Jun Wui, Third Master Jun. His orders are my orders. Whoever dares to disobey will be punished according to the family's rules. All of them kept quiet out of fear. Not a single sound was heard. Then, Mei Shuyan frowned slightly and said to Jun Moxie, on the way here, I seem to have seen people from the 3 Holy Lands moving out in large numbers. They were afraid of delaying the journey, so they did not pay attention to them. This time we are going out on a large scale. Although the momentum is great, but we are also empty inside, if by any chance. Jun Moxie frowned and thought for a long time, then said, in your opinion, would the 3 Holy Lands dare to directly destroy the Jun family while we are not in Tianxiang? Do they have the guts to face the endless revenge from our team and my mysterious master who hides in the dark and kills us? Mei Shuyan laughed. Absolutely not. The 3 Holy Lands are riding a tiger, it is difficult to get off. If they do not get rid of your master first, they will not dare to touch the Jun family. After all, if such an expert hides in the dark and causes destruction, even a venerable expert would not be able to escape the fate of death. This is a level that can easily shake the foundation of the 3 Holy Land. They are all astute, each one of them wants to use the smallest price to obtain the greatest benefit. How could they do such a risky thing? Jun Moxie smiled and said, that's right. Saying that, he turned around and spoke to Grandpa Jun for a while. Grandpa Jun nodded repeatedly, understanding tacitly, and beaming with joy. After everything was said and done, the Jun family's temple seemed to be too small to accommodate so many great Buddhas. Under Jun Moxie's command, everyone boarded the back of the flying Xian beasts, and immediately got ready to set off. Jun Moxie wanted to join the group of beauties, but Mei Shuyan kicked him out. Then, she considerately helped Dongfang Wen Xian and Guan Qinghan to get on the back of the 3rd crane. Long Crane's huge red eyes blinked, and he wanted to cry but had no tears. Everyone else is carrying one person, but I have 3. Bear Mountain was quite generous, and he beamed with joy as he said, "Brother-in-law, come to my side, we 2 brothers will sit together, it is convenient." The Chien beast crane under him couldn't help but roll its eyes. "Fourth brother bear, is it not enough for you to be my brother? Don't make trouble, you're already much heavier than the 3 people on third brother's back combined. It's already very strenuous for me to carry you, if there's really another one, little brother will be in an air crash at any time. Help!" June Moxie heard Bear King's call, and just as he was about to go over, a large eagle suddenly appeared in front of him. It was Eagle King, and he called out flatteringly, "Brother-in-law, please come on me." June Moxie couldn't help but feel a chill. What kind of words are these? Come on me? Please come on me? My taste is not that strong, not to mention that you are a male, even if you are a female. I am not that thirsty, look at your black hair. June Dashao's mouth and eyes were crooked, as if he had been struck by lightning, and he thanked him with great entanglement, and then jumped on. In the end, I still have to go on, I can't not go on, the Eagle King has already invited me, and he is still eagerly looking at me, how can I not go on, I have to brace myself and go on, but this is not the same as that, not to mention, as soon as I got on, it was really comfortable, really worthy of being called Eagle King, really extraordinary. One word, cool. Immediately after, the group of people gathered at the June family's residence all got on the back of the Chien beasts, one after another. This time, there were quite a lot of flying-type Chien beasts that had come to Tianxiang, and even if these people were to ride one each, there would still be a lot of space left. The little princess of the Silver Blizzard City bid farewell to her close friend Duguxiaoi, and excitedly climbed on the back of a large crane. Although Han Yenmeng was born in a super-aristocratic family and had seen many things, it was still the first time that she was flying in the sky like this. The little girl was extremely excited when she thought about the journey in the sky later on. She took out a colorful candy from her bosom and peeled it. Then, she brought it to the mouth of the big crane under her in a fawning manner. She wanted to improve their relationship, but the big crane glared at her with its bloodshot eyes. It was as if it was a fiend, and the little girl was so scared that she almost fell down. Duguxiaoi looked at Han Yenmeng on the back of the crane with great admiration, and her small mouth flattened, looking like she was about to cry. "I also want to sit on a large bird and fly in the sky, woo-woo." Then, the little girl rolled her eyes. "Humph," Brother Amos said, "I am about to enter the door. I have to be more dignified, I have to have the bearing of a lady. Little girl Han is still too early, even if she manages to sneak in the future, she will only be a concubine, not as old as me." Humph humph. With a long cry, Long Crane was the first to flap his wings and fly into the sky, the dust on the ground flying everywhere. Mei Shuyan smiled lightly, and a thick protective shield automatically formed around her, blocking the incoming wind. With Venerable Mei personally protecting Dongfang when Xian and Guan Qinghan, even if the wind was several times stronger, the two's hair would not flutter in the slightest. The group of people gradually rose into the sky. After hovering in the air for a moment, they reorganized their formation and rushed towards the north in a majestic manner. Straight to their destination, Blizzard Silver City. Grandpa June was lost in thought as he stared at the clouds of dust that had yet to dissipate. After a long while, he let out a soft sigh and slowly walked into the ancestral hall. Looking at the memorial tablets of his 2 sons and 2 grandsons, he muttered, "Wu Hui Wu Meng Mou Mo Cho, may your souls not be far away. Your debt of blood has finally arrived. Today is the second half of the night. Rest, adjust, and continue tomorrow." Well, that was what I wanted to say, but I forgot about the last chapter. In the end, I saw a comment from a guy named Richard Chun in the book review section. I know what you want to say. You said, "Keep on blowing up." Chapter 669. Today's Outbreak. The first update is coming. The old man stood there quietly, motionless for a long time. The corners of his mouth curled into an indescribable bitter smile. But when he thought of his grandson, June Emosia, he smiled proudly. He remembered what his grandson had told him before he left. "Grandpa, our June family is going to attack the Silver Blizzard City. After we leave, the June family's headquarters will be empty. But the whole world knows that my master is in the June family. There are not many who would dare to act rashly, and the only ones who would dare to do anything are the forces of the three Holy Lands. You have to be mentally prepared for this. But Grandpa, you don't need to worry too much. I believe that even if the three Holy Lands really want to take action, they will inevitably have some misgivings. So, they will use all kinds of methods to test the June family's reaction. Grandpa, with your experience, it should not be a problem to deal with them. If they don't come, then it's fine. But if they come, you must show your strength. The stronger the better. You must not show weakness to the enemy. No matter what, before Shui Yen and I die, and most importantly, before my master shows up, even if all the people from the three Holy Lands gather in front of you, they will not dare to touch a single hair on your head. But if we show weakness, they will think that we have a guilty conscience, and will no longer have any misgivings. I think you should know this. Don't be afraid of being arrogant, don't be afraid of being domineering. Just deal with it as you see fit. I believe that you can do it. As long as you hold on until we come back, everything will be over." This was what June Moxie said to Grandpa June after a long time of thinking after hearing Mei Shuiyan's words. Similarly, the arrival of such a terrifying number of Xian beasts in Tianxiang City had caused the imperial family to feel inexplicably terrified. Although these Xian beasts only stayed for a short while after they arrived, the commotion caused by them did not dissipate for several months. Everyone clearly knew that the rumors of June Moxie and Tian Fa's number one king, Venerable Mei, falling in love with each other was not groundless. It was a fact. If they wanted to touch the June family, then they would have to face the terrifying power of the entire Tian Fa forest. With such terrifying strength, who could afford to offend him? Even the three Holy Lands would have to think twice, right? It could be said that His Majesty had suffered greatly during this period of time. First, June Moxie openly executed his most capable subordinate in front of the imperial palace for 10 days. However, he, the mastermind behind the scenes, did not even dare to make a sound. This was something that would make people die of grievance. Who knew that June Moxie would bury his empress together with Yi Gohan? This was a well-deserved conclusion. This was tantamount to putting on a green hat that he could never take off, an eternal cuckold. Too green. After being humiliated twice in a row, the Emperor of Tianxiang almost collapsed. But when June Moxie was doing these two things, he didn't mention him at all. Not even a word about being implicated was mentioned. Although the entire world knew that June Emosia was wantonly humiliating the Emperor of Tianxiang, but no one said anything openly, even if there was, no one would dare to say it. Was he tired of living? The June family's young master June had slaughtered people with a glare. No, he wasn't just slaughtering people anymore. He was cutting people into pieces. Every time he cut 100 people into pieces, who would complain about having a long life. This made the Emperor feel like his heart was being fried, but he couldn't say it out loud. He couldn't possibly stand out and say, "June Moxie is targeting me." Wouldn't that be putting a bucket of *T on his head? Humiliating himself? If he didn't say anything, although the entire world knew this was the case, it could be treated as a rumor. But once he said something, it would be the same as confirming it. There would be no room for negotiation. It was as if the whole world was watching a mute person suffering from bitterness, the ruler of a country who could not say anything these few days. He had been thinking that if June Moxie went to Blizzard Silver City to seek revenge, he would go all out and secretly send people to dismantle the tomb of the lovers. By then, the rice would be cooked. He believed that even if Jun Moxie came back, he would not be able to do anything to him. But he didn't expect that before Jun Moxie could make a move, there would be someone even more ruthless. That was a tyrannical existence that even the three holy lands did not dare to go against. Tian Fa Forest. Oh heavens, oh earth, are you still going to let me live? This discovery made His Majesty feel extremely aggrieved, and he cancelled this plan. If he only provoked Jun Dashao, as long as Grandpa Jun was around, he believed that the old man would not sit by and watch his grandson commit regicide. Even if it was a little more humiliating, the Tianxiang Empire would still belong to the Yang family. But if he provoked the Tian Fa Forest, then it would not only be a problem for the Tianxiang imperial family, but the entire Tianxiang Empire would be erased. Therefore, even though the emperor was furious, he didn't dare to make any rash moves. Every day, he would explode with anger, to the point that he was about to vomit blood, but he could not let out a single bit of anger. There was really no room for him to vent his anger. Just as the storm caused by the Xian beasts in Tianxiang City had yet to subside, 3 groups of people from 3 different directions quietly entered Tianxiang City one after another. One of the groups was led by a young man dressed in green robes. He was tall, elegant, and had an extraordinary aura. His face was like jade, and his lips were like vermilion. His movements were natural and unrestrained, but at this time, he was looking at the familiar scenery of Tianxiang City with a bitter smile on his face. I've returned to Tianxiang City again. It wasn't easy for me to leave this place, but I've only been separated for such a short period of time, and I've already been sent back. I still have to face the strongest opponent that I don't want to face the most, the enemy that I fear the most, although he's also the opponent that I desire the most. Jun Mo Xie, if you're not in Tianxiang, even if I win, what meaning would there be? This person was Li Yuran. Jun Mo Xie climbed onto the Eagle King's back, and headed north at high speed. Jun Mo Xie finally realized how far Tianxiang was from the Silver Blizzard City. Even these flying Xian beasts would need at least 2 days to cover a distance of 10,000 li in a day at their full speed. If one were to include the time taken for everyone to eat and rest, then even with such a high speed, it would take at least 3 days. The distance of the Silver Blizzard City could be seen from this. Jun Moxie couldn't help but look at his third uncle enviously. What a blessing! Finding a wife so far away, even if the two of them fight to the point of divorce, the wife's family wouldn't know anything, and would still think that the two of them were making out, unlike me, who is surrounded by hundreds of younger brothers-in-law. After flying at high speed for an entire afternoon, everyone was already far away from Tianxiang City. At this moment, it was already dusk. They finally landed on a boundless prairie and temporarily settled down. The sky was blue and the wilderness was boundless. Although it was a harsh winter and they couldn't see the waves in the grass, they could still feel the unique vastness of the prairie from the bottom of their hearts. All they could see was the boundless horizon. This prairie seemed to be connected to the end of the world and even to the stars. One could only imagine the scenery if one were to come here in the middle of summer. They lit a bonfire and set up tent. Everyone was already prepared, and had brought their own rations with them. After eating, they gathered in groups of 3 to 5 and talked loudly. This was especially so for those beast kings who had just transformed into human form. More than 10 of them gathered together in high spirits. Actually, these beast kings had only just transformed, so they were still not proficient in speaking. Often, they would jump out with a few roars from their original bodies, or they would talk in a completely unrelated manner. However, they would never get tired of it and were enjoying themselves. On the other hand, Guan Qing Han and Dongfang Wenxin were a little tired. The two of them had the weakest cultivation in this trip, and were even weaker than the little princess of the Silver Blizzard City, Han Yenmeng. Moreover, it was their first time being thousands of feet above the ground. Although they had Mei Shuiyan's protection, it was still difficult for them to adapt to the journey. It was inevitable that they would be tired, and so they rested early with Han Yenmeng and the others. It was late at night, and even the three brothers of the Dongfang family were snoring early. However, Jun Moxie, Mei Shuiyan, Jun Wui, Solitary Eagle, and Feng Wanyun were not sleepy at all. They were about to attack the Silver City, and Jun Wui was especially excited, like the waves of the sea. Naturally, it was difficult for him to sleep. Jun Moxie, on the other hand, had the mysterious art of creation with him, so he did not feel sleepy at all. Mei Shuiyan was the chief supervisor, so naturally, she could not be careless. Moreover, her cultivation was profound, so even if she did not sleep for 8 to 10 days, it would not be a problem. Solitary Eagle and Feng Wanyun were both battle maniacs. Seeing that the battle was imminent, their blood was boiling, and they could not sleep at all. The 5 of them walked together on the prairie, feeling the soft grass under their feet rustling from time to time. In the distance, the bonfires burned so brightly that half of the sky was illuminated. Under the vast sky, they felt a kind of tranquility that touched their souls. Mei Shuiyan was the first to break the silence. She looked at Jun Moxie with a smile and said softly, "Ever since the last time, I felt that you had a lot of questions to ask, but I did not let you ask them. Now you can ask them." Solitary Eagle and the rest looked at Jun Moxie in surprise. Jun Moxie smiled and said bluntly, "You are right. In my heart, there are indeed a lot of questions that I want to ask you. I always wanted to ask, but I could not find a good opportunity. Now that you've let me ask, I do not know how to say it. It's okay. You can ask whatever you want. Everyone is here. I believe that they can answer your questions." Mei Shuiyan smiled sweetly and made fun of Jun Moxie. Everyone laughed. But they were interested in Jun Moxie's words. They found a place and sat in a circle. Jun Wui, who was the weakest among the 5, had reached the 4th level of Shen Xian. Naturally, he was not afraid of the cold. He sat on the ground. Jun Moxie smiled and stretched out his arms. Facing the grassland, he said, "Actually, I'm afraid that my questions are very simple to you. For example, Old Ing and Fierce Wind Sword God are here. So, I won't beat around the bush and I'll speak directly. Last night, I worked until 4 in the morning. Got up at 10 in the morning, edited word by word, and uploaded it. Early today, right? Ah. Yes, it was very happy at 4 in the morning. When I was tired of writing, I looked at QQ and found that the naughty little boy was online. He was eating like a little mouse. I heard that he was having dinner. I teased the little boy for a while. He actually wanted to take a screenshot to threaten me. Then, I bullied him again. He happily went offline to sleep. No dreams, you're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.